Welcome back to the best damn comic book and YouTube podcast thing that we've ever got going here at the Comics Aficionados. We've got a lot of stuff happening in the comic book industry today. We're going to get to. We got a great panel of experts to discuss all these things. But first, I do want to say, I finally have my official shirts. People have asked me where they can get this, and we have it here. It's on Redbubble. I'm going to show you guys. There we go. You go to the old Redbubble. And you can see we got lots of different products here. We got shirts. What else we got? We got hoodies and stuff like that. Well, it's only shirts here. But there's 53 products total. Let's see it. There you go. Hats.
Sweet.
Nice.
Wes went all out and even hired models and shit.
It's exactly right. We got stickers, laptop skins, and stuff like that. So if you've been looking for the official Thinking Critical YouTube merch, it is finally available. Right there on Redbubble. There's a link in the video description if you're interested. Definitely go check it out. And let's remove that. There's enough shameless self-promotion. We've actually got a panel here of experts on comic books making its grand return to Thinking Critical. Maxfield Bond, previously MVP. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing much better, man. Thank you so much. I took a few weeks off of YouTube and I did a few live streams here and there. One with like Reggie Collects, but yeah, it's great to be back now, and especially on the Aficionados, the official source of comic book news here on YouTube. So I'm excited to get into it with these guys who are absolute experts. So it's good to be back.
Absolutely, definitely check out MVP's channel. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got a really very impactful video out there if you haven't checked it out yet.
Thanks, brother.
Who else we got? We got Gabe from Weird Science and Comical Opinions returning as well. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing great, Wes. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Lots to talk about. So hopefully we'll keep it under 6 hours.
We're going to try and keep it under 6 hours, but I can't guarantee anything. And Gabe and I actually have a very good video that's going to be coming up on Monday about politics and comic books. So that'll be pretty good. Who else we got? We got Drew from Comics Elite. Normally we see Drew's pretty face, but he is not all dolled up today. What happened?
No, and you can confirm it. I still have my beard, so it's just didn't have time to put my face on, but it's good to be here.
He looks great. I don't know what he's on about it. You know, like he had some disheveled hair, but apparently that doesn't meet Drew's high standards. So
No, it doesn't.
I don't blame you, buddy. You got to get all dolled up for the channel.
Exactly.
Who else? We got Josh McDonald from PopByCulture.com. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Did you see those previews for what was it, Black Adam? You excited?
Yeah, that was a nice little clip. I was excited for that film even before we got previews, and I was hoping they'd do it justice. And it looks like we can get some good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm a huge Hawkman fan. I'm a little concerned about all the red. Like, why'd they change out green with red?
I don't know. I saw that as well. I was a little more excited to see Dr. Fate. So
Dr. Fate looked like $1 million.
Yeah.
They nailed that one.
Yeah.
It looks even with the red, Hawkman still looks pretty badass.
He looks cool,
so.
but it's like
I'll care more about how they write him as opposed to how he looks. Like he looks good enough. If they can write the character well, then I'm on board 100%.
You got a point there. Last but not least, we do have I don't know, how do we describe you, Doc? I'm putting you through the paces. We already record Worst of the Week. That's going to be coming up on Monday. And how many bad comics can I put you through before you quit?
I'm like the channel gimp. Just bring out the gimp. Bring out the gimp. Just
he's got an 8-ball strapped to his mouth right now.
Yeah, the ball gag. That's why I'm still fucking talking. Yep.
Maybe it's not strapped to his mouth.
No.
Hey.
See what happens is Wes ties me down to a chair, and then Clockwork Orange style, where they got the things in the eyes to like hold your eyelids open, and then forces me to watch these fucking comics on a screen like via PowerPoint. It's like dropping eye drops in my eyes from time to time. The whole idea is it's like a CIA experiment to see if he can make me crazy.
Well, here's the thing, Doc. You've been reading X-Men for the last decade without quitting. So I know that you like bad comics. I can't make you quit. X-Men could make you quit.
You got a good point there.
Exactly. He can handle it, folks. Let's get into the big news. Uh-oh, I forgot to put the things on the side. But we have DC Comics announcer Dark Crisis with Joshua Williamson. And it looks like we're getting, what do you think, Josh? They're calling this a 30-year love letter to DC Comics fans?
I'll believe it when I see it. No, I think Joshua Williamson has the best intentions. I think a lot of my lack of interest with this is mainly just because it's so been there, done that. Even if you go back like roughly 10 years, you had 52, then shortly after that, you had Forever Evil. Both instances, the Justice League was gone or the Justice League was dead, but are they really? No, they're not really, but I don't know. Like I feel like we've tread this path so many times that it's hard for me to get excited. And no matter you can try to say it's different as much as you want to, but it's still the same core story. You're just throwing different villains and different heroes into the mix.
What do you think? What do you think, Gabe? Obviously, you're the weird science DC guru. Are you excited about this? Do you think they've hit the right notes?
Well, of course I'm excited about it because according to DC, everything matters. So if everything matters, I should be excited about all of it, right? So
Then, hey, you know what? Then nothing matters, and I'm excited that nothing matters here.
look, I mean,
Gabe, you're starting to sound like me last week.
this reeks of rehashed 5G that never came to pass. I mean, that's just me. I mean, others may disagree. That's fine. To me, this reeks of they had 5G. They were trying to put some things together. The whole thing fell apart. Didio was ejected or quit or however you want to term it. And like, well, we have all these piece parts. We had sort of a plan. So let's take all those characters that we thought were going to pay off, and most of them have not or have in very lessening degrees. And let's see if we can try to make something out of it. And it just sounds like rehash after rehash after rehash. I mean, at some point you just sort of say, it's how is this bigger or better or different than Dark Metal? I mean, the whole description of how this is going to change everything is the same. How is this bigger and better than the event before that, or the event before that, or the event before that? It's really not taking you anywhere different. It's not really doing anything new. The only thing that's really different about it is it's using newer characters in a collective space. Yara Flor, John Kent, I guess Joe Mullen's in there, and a few other characters. And okay, if that's exciting for you, I'm happy for you. But does that really make it, something worthwhile? But everybody's going to get up. Does it feel like a love letter to people who've been sticking by DC through some really rough times lately? I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm just being too cynical, but I don't see it.
It's yeah. So remember when I said they're still going to do fucking 5G, even though whenever they said we're not doing 5G, and I said you're liars, you're going to do it, and that was in what? A year ago? Was that a year ago or 2 years ago?
State. That was supposed to be what they had left.
Yeah, nope. I told you were getting every fucking thing from that. It's just a matter of when. You're just not all getting it once. They're just going to spread out the agony over a couple of years now instead of forcing it on you all at once.
It almost feels like it almost feels like they had this like internal battle within the company to be like, we're not doing 5G. And it's like, shit, we've already paid for half this stuff to be done. Let's just make a little like mini event. We'll call it Future State. It's in the future. It may or may not happen. Awesome. Great. Kind of pushed it out. And then it was like, all right, so what are you going to do after this? And then it's kind of like they thought, oh shit, we don't have a plan for anything. Just try to run. How do we stop this? That's what we'll do. And then now they're like, hey, some of this stuff was decent. No, it wasn't. And then they're like, let's just keep it going, man. Keep it going. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was thinking about while I was reading this and while I was watching some of these videos about recapping the whole event. I'm just going, what's the end game? Is there an end game? What is the goal? What's the purpose of this crisis, of this next storyline? And I think you guys had actually brought it up in a previous Aficionados, essentially talking about if they are going to retcon characters, we need a definitive line. There needs to be something that says, okay, here's where we're going from here on out. Because essentially, from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading about this whole new event is that they're not actually, they're killing the primary Justice League, but they're not, because the titles are still going to be ongoing and we're still going to see Superman and Batman and Aquaman, and all this stuff. But they are dead, but they're not. And so I just, like I said, it's this whole thing of like, what's the end game? And if they do have one, where is the line of continuity? And I just don't see one.
There is no continuity with this. It's just
Right.
it's like if you don't want to read the socially justified five, then fine. You can read the ongoing titles with the original heroes. They want to have their cake and eat it too. If you don't want to read the event, which Perth did a video this morning saying that DC said, like, don't worry, they're coming back at the end of the year. If you don't want to read about it in the whatever it is now, Dark Crisis, then fine. You can just read the ongoing titles. They're there, they're alive. So it doesn't matter. None of this matters.
Well, that means that everything matters, right? In DC's mind.
If everything matters, nothing matters, and if nothing matters, everything matters.
If everything matters, then that Harley Quinn Eat Bang Kill Tour comic book that I just read was important.
It is. Hey, that is the most important motherfucking comic in the history of comic books.
I think it's BS that the DC comic book guy from Weird Science didn't read it. What the hell, Gabe? I shouldn't have to do this alone.
I'm already covering the main Harley Quinn book, which is from Stephanie Phillips, which is not great. It's not great. And I'm already somehow got pegged with, now I'm on the hook to do the Jurassic League. There's only so much I can take in a quarter.
That's going to be fun.
That could be fun. I'm holding out hope.
Here's the problem with Jurassic League. It's only fun when it's an absurd, like, ridiculous kind of wild deviation from the, like, norm, where it's, this irreverent deviation from an otherwise mostly taken serious universe. You're right now dealing with a universe that nobody takes seriously. So having an irreverent escape from that is just the 66th different irreverent, pointless escape from an actual DC universe. The only real DC universe at this point exists in people's brains and memories.
All right, well,
if you treat it like an Elseworlds, that's fine.
But so's everything. Yeah, that's the problem. At this point, the DCU is in Elseworlds. It's 65 different Elseworlds.
My main point on Harley, going back to it a little bit, is Harley's turning into a thorn in my side for a number of different reasons. But the primary reason that Harley is a thorn in my side, not like a poison ivy rose thorn, but a thorn in my side, is because nobody at DC seems to be willing to take the step to do something with her. Mm-hmm. She's all over the place. In one comic, she's this way. In another comic, she's that way. In the cartoon, she's the other way. In the movies, she's the other way. Nobody can make up their mind that, if people want to kind of buy into Harley and get invested in her in a long-term ongoing series, whatever else, you have to pick a direction for the character and then get people to consistently stick to that. And right now, that's not happening. So basically, every book you pick up with Harley in it, you're getting a different version of the character. And it's almost throwaway. So a popular character is pointless in her own book, and that doesn't make sense to me, and that's why it becomes problematic going forward, because you never know what you're going to get every time you open the book and look at the first page. So until DC figures that out, it's almost pointless to kind of buy into any version of the character, because they're all as equal, but none of them make any sense.
Agreed.
Let's get into a couple of these super chats. We got a few of them to get through. We got Cal and Lyle. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Is the Great Darkness that entity in multiversity that can break the fourth wall, or am I thinking of something else? I believe you're thinking of something else. What do you think he's thinking of, Josh?
Break the fourth wall or the source wall?
The Great Darkness.
The Great Darkness was introduced way back in the 80s.
The Legion. It's in the Legion.
No,
and then you have Pariah coming into play as well with this, and then they've already.
So the Great Darkness in Legion. That's just the name of the book. The Great Darkness they're talking about is an entity that was introduced in Swamp Thing.
Yes,
by Alan Moore.
But the Great Darkness, it's all a callback to literally like the late 70s or the 80s Titans run with was it Marv Wolfman? No, it was who the fuck did the Great Darkness saga?
Is it Paul Levitz?
Paul Levitz, yeah. That's it. That's what it's all a callback to. This is just it's the name, but they're not associated. It's what I'm telling you, Doc. All right.
It's a different entity. Do you know what he's talking about in Multiversity, about this entity that's going through the fourth wall, Josh? Being the DC
it's been a hot minute since I read Multiversity. I was thought it was okay. There were certain issues that I really loved. Pax Americana, excellent. I'd read that time and time again. I'm curious to see how it all plays out because they've set Darkseid up to play a role. They've announced that Pariah is going to be the main villain, and then you have this dark entity. So I don't know. We'll see. And it's only 7 issues, so that doesn't give me much hope because you've got all these heroes, all these major villains, and somewhere I guess you're going to have a plot in there. I don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, we got Lane Kramer. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. This series seems to kill interest in DC Comics in 2022. They make you want to drop your current comics and then not read the new ones in 2023. I think, they want their cake and eat it too. They don't want this to turn you off. And if you don't want that, you're going to go read the ongoing stuff. But if the event's going on and it's important, then the ongoing stuff can't be important. And if the ongoing stuff's important and all the characters are there and they're dead in the event, then the event's not important. Which one is it? And I can see where Lane's coming from here, MVP, where it's like, why am I even here then? If they can't make up their mind, why should I, even invest?
Right. It's a great question. And my mind just keeps going back to, well, this is supposed to be a love letter to those who've been reading for so long and 30 years in the making. And, that term just keeps coming around. And I don't know, I just don't see a love letter being made to DC fans by killing off these classic characters. And like Lane says here, it just seems like it's going to turn more people off because DC can't make up their mind. They can't decide, all right, here's a definitive, we're going to do this event that's going to have repercussions. So it is a bit frustrating, but I think that is maybe off topic, but I think that is why it'll be fun to have the Jurassic League. But I'm a Danny Warren Johnson fan, so that's the only reason why. So
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if when the Great Dark News comes out of the shadows, that Darkseid will have a Discovery Channel logo on his chest. Maybe that's what they're getting at.
Yeah, a D+ or whatever it is for
Great Darkness. It's a big D, right?
It's a great D here.
A love letter to DC fans, that have been longtime fans, would be the return of Alfred or something, right?
I would say the return.
Wasn't that what the return of Wally West was in Rebirth?
Yeah, but at this point, I'd be like, a great love letter to fans would be the return of the JSA. That's what I want to see. I would just love to see the JSA come in at the end of the day and be like,
promised that 5 years ago.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Man, I would love...
Here's a question though. Name a writer currently at DC that you would trust to write that.
Robert Venditti. Perfect.
Yeah. Or Peter Tomasi, if he were still there. I don't know.
One shot. Yeah.
Maybe Alfred is the Great Darkness.
That would be the way to do it. Josh.
Don't.
Avert expectations and Alfred's the Great Darkness.
That's Tom King's event. That would be Tom,
Some idiot at DC is gonna hear that and be like, "Yo, that's a fucking great idea. Let's do it."
That's where we go.
Worked for Wally West.
That's such a great.
Batman has been bundled by the Great Darkness for his entire life, and set up by the Bat God. That's what will connect it back to fucking Scott Snyder's Bat God, and a bunch of other stupid, pointless bullshit that made the universe smaller.
I think this super chat's going to get some people going. Mr. DC Comics has a very salient point. I don't understand how the Teen Titans get skipped over as the true legacy characters of the Justice League. He's got a pretty damn good point there, Josh. They're not replacing the Justice League with what you would assume with the heir apparent. It's replacing them with all these new characters that have been introduced relatively recently that no one is attached to.
We have to do something that's new and all different and fresh and diverse, and those people
in the name of legacy.
In the name of legacy.
Now.
I think the Teen Titans have pretty much been squandered off to be like, little trainers. That's fine. But
you have the real Justice League. Then you have the Teen Titans that are going to train the real heirs to the Justice League because they weren't good enough. Mostly because they weren't created by playing diversity bingo and in the last 5 years.
It's one of the situations where they're constantly in this back and forth of how do we elevate these characters and how do we keep them from taking the spotlight. And I've always felt like with the Teen Titans or the core team of the Teen Titans, they kind of straddle this line of they're not teenagers anymore, but we're still going to kind of refer to them as the Teen Titans. Sometimes we'll refer to them as the Titans. I wish they just had like the Justice League, which dealt with these huge, massive intergalactic threats, and then you had Justice League of America, which was like they're your core heroes. They take the states.
West
That's what
Coast
they
Justice
protect.
League. That's what
And
we
make
need.
your Titans the JLA. Make them the ones that like, hey, we've stepped up, we've graduated, we can train new people, we can kind of assess, but let them actually take some ownership and some threats. But yeah, they need to, and they're not. Well, it looks like they might. It looks like they might play a role here. Again, 7 issues. I don't know how big of a role they can play.
It's gonna be like the X-Men Blue and the X-Men Gold, like they did back in the 90s. Those different strike teams.
Exactly.
Or Justice League of America and Justice League Europe.
And the Justice League International.
Yeah, Justice League International.
Or have some event where the main 7 gets trapped in an alternate dimension or in the past or something like that, and then the Teen Titans have to step up to handle whatever invading threat is going to take over the world. So in other words, take them as they're still their traditional core group, but elevate them to a challenge that's going to encompass the entire planet or something to that degree. So that way you can still present them with a bigger challenge than they're used to. That gives you an opportunity to elevate them not only as individual characters, but also as a team. And then when, all the toys come back in the toy box and Justice League comes back from wherever they are, now there's sort of a newfound respect for the Teen Titans because they're always sort of looked at as the little kids on the side by the main Justice League. And it gives an opportunity for a newfound respect, or even better, and I think this is what they did in the first season of Young Justice, which they did really well, is now when the old guard comes back and the Teen Titans are like, hey, we're okay now, we managed to handle this, the Justice League comes back and say, but you're still the kids, and now that creates like a family conflict. Where they're looking at the Teen Titans as still the little kids, but the Teen Titans says, no, we've outgrown that, and you now have to respect this, and they're not getting that, and now you've got conflict.
Well, that's the biggest thing.
To deal with that going forward.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
That's the biggest thing that I see here is that these new characters that they're trying to push into the Justice League aren't tried. They're not tested. They haven't been forged in the fires of adversity. They're so concerned about diversity that they haven't considered what about the adversity that these characters need to grow. Drew, you even mentioned it in your recent comic book. Your lead character is going to go through some major challenges. You have to in order to grow. And so if we want to see these characters do that, whether it's the Teen Titans or this new kind of 5G Justice League, they need to have some sort of challenge that's going to give them that opportunity to grow and show their true selves and show that they can stand the test of time. But we just haven't seen that because everyone just continues to say how great they are. So,
well, there is one battle-tested Justice Leaguer that's going to survive, and her name is Naomi. Just putting that one out there.
Yeah, she's got her own show.
We got a couple more super chats we got to get through here. We got Lane Kramer. Wes, your video on Batman Catwoman number 10 broke it. That wasn't my video. That was Josh's video. I was just along for the ride.
It broke me too, Josh.
I was waiting to ask if y'all covered that in the worst comics of the week, and if you didn't, I was going to be pissed.
No, we actually did not because you already did it. Oh, I could not have added anything more than what you did. I did an issue of Batman Catwoman with Wes a couple of weeks ago, or maybe what was that, a month or two ago. And that made my brain hurt, and I wanted to die when I was done.
Oh, okay. Notice the importance of the marketing language, because this is kind of like a geeky, weird marketing back end point, but notice the similarities. Batwoman, Catwoman, that series came out after King was removed or moved on from the main Batman series. The way it was described as a love letter to the fans of King's run on Batman.
Yeah.
And look how it turned out.
Yeah.
So whenever I hear the phrase love letter coming out of DC's mouth about anything that's upcoming, and I'm already drawing parallels to Batwoman, Catwoman. I'm already drawing parallels to Darkness and everything else that's going on. So it's fine to use it as a buzzword, but when you take that buzzword and make a negative connotation to what came after it as a result, you're already going to get cynicism, and you're going to get people jaded about your event if you're describing it in terms that people already know that you can't deliver on.
Well, I feel like. All
right, we got another one, Doc.
All right,
we got Cal Mile. Good news though. Black Adam showed some small clips. Hawkman looks good, and the JSA they seem to put some effort in their costumes for once. Yeah.
I don't like the red.
I don't like the red on the Hawkman, but he looks good otherwise.
Yeah.
Dr. Fate's the one that really brought it home.
Yeah. I'm still kind of waiting for that Hawkman where he doesn't even have a chest plate, where it's just like straight up. Like that. Like someone who's
Isn't that what he had in the clip? I thought the clip it was just like the gladiator straps.
I think he had a full chest plate.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look at it again.
That's the 1980s action figure that I have up on my shelf right now that I had from when I was like 6. That's the Hawkman that I know, the one where he's just wearing the gladiator straps and a pair of pants and boots, and his wings are sticking right out, and he's got his helmet on. That's the only Hawkman. Motherfucker needs to go into battle basically shirtless.
Yeah.
Rags Morales Hawkman. That's what I go to.
Oh, by the way, on the prior point, raise your hand if you watched every episode of the CW Naomi show.
No one on the planet can raise their
hand. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I read Harley Quinn eat bang.
I just abuse myself. I don't know what it is.
Wes is already doing the Lord's work with some of these comic books. I don't think he should do the show as well.
Spoiler alert! It's not good. It's not a good show.
I have already bruised my brain with some of the things that Wes has forced me to read over the last couple of months. There's no way in hell you could get me to watch a Naomi show. This is going to be. Isn't its ratings already down? Like
in the last 50%? Episode, there was a scene where Dee and Naomi were driving in a car. You know how they do the green screen where the backgrounds are moving to make it look like they're moving?
Yeah.
The video in the background where you see the buildings and people passing by was stuttering. It was that bad. And I'm not making that up. It was stuttering like the video was jumping because they couldn't get the video to stay in sync with the film.
Jeez. The movie Airplane did it better.
That doesn't sound good. We got one more super chat here. Cal Weil says, I'd just leave the Teen Titans alone for now because I would keep Vita, T, Cecil far away from them and all the kids considering how they write their stuff.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, but nobody wants to see that, right? I can't believe that T. Franklin, they just announced she has another comic book based on an HBO like Max series. That's not DC.
Failing upwards.
Maybe they must have thought it was good. I don't get it.
Is it gonna be? You know what? It's the blonde wig, the pirate. Blonde
wig, the pirate.
The chick with the fucking crutches. She's getting her own TV show. That's what it is.
One of the viewers called her Peg Leg Beyonce, and I thought that was brilliant. But I don't think that character's good. I think it's something else that's not even comic book related where they get that. But yes, keep all those writers away from the Teen Titans. Just keep them away from comic books, period, and things will get better. So I don't know, Josh. What are you expecting? How long are the Justice League going to be dead? Obviously, they're going to come back. They're in purgatory somehow in the new Justice League. Perhaps JLQ or some version of it is going to come in and save the day.
It seems like it's going to be a conglomerate of heroes. They even tease that some heroes aren't going to fight the battle, which seems really strange. Unless you're in severe mourning.
Hal Jordan, right? Hal Jordan's be like, I'm going to sit this one out, fellas.
What he's been doing, like he's been like, yeah, I'm good.
I think John Kent will be out there protesting the fight.
No more violence. That's what I imagine John Kent.
There is no crisis beat.
I don't know. This hurts my brain. I like thinking about it.
Or like his last book where he is fighting the sea monster or whatever, and he goes, well, let's wait and let's talk to it first because not all monsters are bad or something like that. He says that to the kid. So I'm just waiting for the great darkness or Pariah or whoever to come by, and he's just like, wait, hang on a sec, guys. Let's think about this. Let's ask it some questions. Is it really bad? As they're trying to destroy the world.
Answer yes.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, we're talking about this? Yes, it's bad. What do you get out of here? Is it? No, it's going to be that rag fucking patchwork kid from Teen Titans Academy that always needs to play devil's advocate.
Stitch?
Yes. It's going to be that thing.
So what do you think about this game? So there's a lot of information that they gave out, obviously, on Joshua Williamson DC's part, and they said, there are no reboots, no relaunches here. I'm going, I just don't believe it. You're going to tell me you're going to do something, you're going to put Crisis on it, and it's going to have no impact on the DC universe. I mean, they said, what would they call Death Metal was the anti-Crisis? Like, you can call it whatever you want, but you just completely redefine the DC universe. There's no way that they're not rebooting Batman back to #1 and some of these other titles like that. We're going to get some series launching out of this, right?
I was like,
do you believe it was what I'm saying, Gabe? Do you believe them at their word that this is just
No, I'm not saying this to be overly cynical or harsh or just nitpicky or anything like that. I don't believe anything DC tells me at this point. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying DC has proven over and over again, especially in the last 5 years, they don't deliver on what they promise.
They are as reliable as the weatherman.
They know. So, I mean, will they go back? Will they relaunch as #1s? Are they going to go like Zdarsky, Daredevil, Marvel #1 nonsense crazy? I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I mean, basically, there's no indication that anything is going to go other than right back to status quo. If anything, this sounds like I hate to say it like this. It sounds like it's just a time waster to get past June when the Discovery merger is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
To be blunt, I mean, if I'm looking at it from the outside, that's what it feels like. Let's put something big in there so that we, however the merger turns out, we're going out with a bang. So if it turns out badly for DC, we went out on a high note. If it turns out well for us, then we have something that we can now just kind of reset, level set, and rebuild on.
And if you want. And considering, look, I hate to sound like a broken record on this. All DC is doing is copying Marvel's homework that Marvel did between 2012 and 2017. What was a similar situation that Marvel was in? Oh, wait, the Fox deal. All this is going to turn into is Secret Wars. Hickman's Secret Wars. Isn't it? It is. This is Hickman's Secret Wars. The story is the same. The outcome, the post Secret Wars, new reality. You didn't want all new, different DC. You're about to get exactly all new, all different DC. Because all they've done is copy. It's the same fucking people that have the exact same ideas that failed at it once, won't accept that they failed at it. So now they're over at DC failing at it again. It's
now the glass could be half full on this one. Drew, there could be an opportunity for them to reboot the universe and maybe get rid of the Omniverse and tighten things up. Maybe get rid of some of the riffraff that's making the universe untenable right now, right?
They could, but in this latest article that the press release DC made, they said, no, Justice League is coming back. They're not dead. They're lost. It's like we've said it before this morning. If you don't want to read the event, you can read the heroes and their ongoing titles. It's not going to cross over to the Great Darkness event. Nothing matters. If you don't want to read it, don't read it. That's what we're going to tell our viewers on our channel. If you don't want to read it, you don't have to read it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think because Wes, I know that you had called this like weeks ago, but it just looks like this is an opportunity to have the younger, more capable Justice League saving the old Justice League, or coming to their rescue. And if it's not going to affect anything, like you said, Drew, there's no reason to read it. And people might save their $8 for however $8 to $10 that this book is probably going to be when it comes out. So
it's all I know is the end result of this. I want Hal Jordan to be sitting there in the middle of this and be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just turn back into Parallax, eat everything, and we'll start over.
Yeah, look, DC.
It would be an improvement.
DC was effectively playing chicken with the fans. DC blinked, they swerved and said, "Oh no, don't worry, they're not dead. They're coming back." They spoiled their event, so they didn't like the reception that they were getting.
I love that they already announced the Justice League will be back before they even kill them.
Yeah.
They haven't even actually killed them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Joshua Williams had said, Josh, is that what makes this so cool and so important is the Justice League aren't coming back, at least not immediately. Like, okay, we better put a date on that.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's been there, done that too many times. People don't believe it. People don't care for it. Sales usually drop when this happens. And they could have. What's bad is they could have gone the doomsday clock route and been like, "Hey, we're gonna have this event and everything's gonna catch up to it." We know that didn't turn out because multiple reasons. But you could still have approached the story like that. Hey, you're gonna see your favorite heroes in these titles, but once it catches up, anything could happen. So. And at least that would have created some intrigue.
We do have a couple of super chats for you to get to. Thank you so much to Alec for supporting the channel. When are we going to get Doc to watch some episodes of CW shows? That's a commentary I'd listen to.
You know what? I watched all the seasons of Arrow.
We're talking Batwoman. When are we doing Batwoman? Doc?
Oh, Batwoman.
Don't try to puss out on this.
Oh, God. Honestly, I haven't been watching any TV.
He just doesn't watch TV, folks.
I'm like 6 weeks behind on everything on my fucking DVR. I'm not kidding. I am so far behind on everything television that it's not even close. I mean, it's almost absurd. I'm like deleting stuff because I've just never gotten around to watching it, and my DVR is filling up. So I can't promise.
I'll see what I can do if I can put Doc through some more hell. And I do want to say, if you're enjoying the conversation, the chat here, definitely give us a thumbs up. I think we're at about 70 right now. We've got like 240, 250 live viewers. So if you haven't done that, support the channel, let everyone know we're having fun here. And I will try and put Doc through some more personal hell for you guys because we take the bullets for you folks. We've also got Callum Lyle off topic. Is there a reason why we aren't seeing the other Lantern cores like the red and orange, or is it because most were made by Ethan and Johns? Well, we did definitely see the Red Lantern Corps at the beginning of Rebirth when they did the Green Lantern series. I think Atrocious was in there. But we really haven't heard much of the other cores other than the ones that Scott Snyder made up. Right, Gabe? Where we had the Ultraviolet Corps and the...
Yeah, you've got the Gold Lantern and the White Lantern and everything was coming out of Blackest Night. Why aren't we seeing more? Well, first of all, if you're reading the current Green Lantern run by Jeff Thorne, pretty much everything is kind of out the window as far as anything that resembles a traditional Green Lantern book, right? Because lights out, the lantern's depowered. There's John Stewart's turned into some kind of a goddish power kind of person. And
he has to make a decision if he's going to be a god or a man or.
Fascinating. Yeah. But the flip side of that is they are working on that Green Lantern show for HBO Max. So they might be intentionally trying to create some separation between the two, because I think, if I understand correctly, that HBO series is supposed to be more traditional Green Lantern Corps type stuff. You're going to have John Stewart. You're going to have a lot of the traditional lanterns that you would see. So they might just be trying to create some separation, and because there is so much going on, they really haven't figured out how to now work in yellow lanterns and red lanterns and everybody else. That's not to say that they aren't there. They shouldn't be doing something, but yeah, I think everybody's attention that has anything to do with the lanterns are just really split and off in their corners, and they're just not giving it any attention.
I have a brilliant idea.
Oh no.
Let's forget that any lantern except for green exists.
No, I like the different.
You gotta have the yellow core.
Yeah, I like the spectrum.
No. You just get one yellow lantern, and it's Sinestro. That's it. One yellow lantern.
Man, that's how I can tell you're not even a Green Lantern fan.
I hate the fucking rainbow lanterns. I hate them.
I like them.
I don't know. I
think like the Care Bears or something. They are. They
literally turn
their chest.
No, fuck that. That's exactly what it is. They turn the lanterns into fucking Care Bears. That's you know what? You just put it actually. That's all it is. Every one of them. They're Care Bears now. Good job. Sorry,
Ethan, I gave Doc another talking point. I'm sorry, everybody. You got that from me.
You can't take away my Larfleeze. You got to keep my Larfleeze in check. But you can't get rid of them. You can't get them.
We got another super chat from Cal Lyle. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I call mine the DC New 53. This week I was sketching a 9-page long fight between Starfire and an OC villain I made who is anti-alien. and somehow I got the crowd to cheer for Corey, and I'm nobody. So, hey, that's the one thing is that you can't stop comic fans. You can just make your own comics. People love these characters, and it's disappointing that we're not getting like the versions that we want, really, Josh. But there's always back comics, and there's always people doing kind of fun stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At this point, I bet if we scoured the internet, we would find better fan fiction than what we're getting in the main title, which is a very sad notion to come to terms with, but it's probably the truth.
It just gives me a better appreciation for back issues. A lot of the older stories. It just really makes me go back and read even 0 Hour. Like, my God, this was so much fun compared to what we're getting right now.
Yep.
You know what was also more fun was Care Bears. Have you seen Care Bears in the movie? That thing rocked.
It was.
When you met the cousins.
It was moderately well illustrated. Whenever Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver did it for DC with all the Rainbow Lanterns.
I don't want to.
But if you want the better versions, Batman becomes public domain in 2033. So all you got to do is wait 11 years.
There's no way that's happening, Gabe. You know that. Don't keep that.
It'll be like when Pooh went public domain. He can't wear a T-shirt, so he's just a bear.
And the public domain only applies to, I think, the first comic of Batman. So you have to do the original with the tall ears and the short purple gloves and do all that stuff. But
and you can't have any of the cool Batman-esque gadgets that were introduced later.
Yeah.
So MVP, you were jumping in there and everybody interrupted you. I'm sorry. We're
Souls. Sorry, Max.
Hey, that's all right. That's what happens, guys. I appreciate it. No, I was just gonna say real quick, Callum. Hey, keep creating, brother. That's what you got to do, man. Like if you're not enjoying what is out there and you don't want to talk about it, just fucking create. And I think that's the greatest thing that we can do as fans, as creators, as readers, is just create new stuff. So I'm glad that you're creating and you're drawing, man. I think it's awesome. The other thing I was going to say is the Care Bear thing, and I won't derail us too much because then we can get back on topic. But when you think about Green Lantern and like the Blue Lanterns, the only reason why the Blue Lantern is there is because it's across the color spectrum, and it like powers the Green Lantern to an extent to where the Green Lantern has will, but without hope, it can't be as strong as it possibly could be. So each one of the lanterns like kind of adds to it, and they had a color wheel, and they like thought about this and stuff. So that's my opinion on the whole Green Lantern thing. But that was it. I didn't want to derail us too much.
Well, I'm not derail us. Care Bears versus My Little Pony. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Dude, BrodyCon would be so off the hook if that happened. You know what I'm saying?
IDW's on the way out, so sure. Why don't you grab it up? I'm gonna jump on MVP's point about Callum because I do a lot of the reviews for Marvel and DC for Weird Science, but Comical Opinions is basically everything outside of Marvel and DC. Much better storytellers when you get into indie and small press. You have much more variety of people willing to tell storytellers. What the smaller publishers lack is a superhero universe, by and large. They tend to go into horror and sci-fi and do the other things. So those smaller publishers are dying for people that are really invested in superheroes and can put something together. So keep at it, man. Keep going, and then either publish on your own, do indie like crowdfund, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, whatever, or hook up with a smaller publisher. Those smaller publishers are dying to compete with Marvel and DC because in the current state the big two are in right now, they are ripe for somebody to come in and kick their butt with a superhero universe that makes sense. And I'm not talking about Spawn with King Spawn.
Spawn is pantsing everybody right now.
Sure, but it's very specific. It appeals to a very specific audience. It's very narrow in scope as far as the appeal goes. But if you got indie creators that are coming up and they can get it doesn't have to be a connected universe, but can at least come up with a team or at least a series of individual books that are very much in the superhero range that's going to appeal to longtime DC and Marvel fans, that oyster is sitting right there for you. All you got to do is grab it. So keep at it, keep going, keep plugging, and know that audience is there and they are hungry if you're willing to take the chance on it.
Absolutely. We've got another super chat from Cal. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And on Doomsday Clock, did Scott Snyder do what he did out of spite for Johns, or was it jealousy? I don't think it was Scott Snyder.
No.
That's
so,
Didio.
And look, this is coming from sources inside DC. This is coming from creators. The problem that happened with Doomsday Clock is it got way behind. So they were even supposed to launch that book before they did. And then it was Gary Frank. There was just like, it was moving so slow. And DC as a company, they had actually planned up to a point, and then they started having to spin their wheels. And then you could tell, I mean, there's a point in time during Rebirth, you can tell the stories are just kind of treading water because they were waiting. And Dan DiDio stepped in and said, we've got to do something. So they did Metal, but Scott Snyder worked with Jeff Johns for Metal to try to figure something out. And then it was on the back end of Metal that they just decided, you know what, we're going to move forward. But by that point, too, Johns had to step away to take a more leading role with the films and television. So he wasn't going to be as involved, and he didn't have the creative control over comics like he did. So it was if there's anyone that did anything spite of Jeff Johns, it was Dan Didio.
We've got your friendly neighborhood banker. Nice. Hi, Doc. I think this is Secret Crisis to Infinite Multiverse Clone War that we've all been waiting for.
I love that avatar.
Yeah. Okay.
He's got a point there, Doc. I think this is like the end all be all of events. We're just mixing them all together and then spitting out something new. Wait, Doc's gone. Why am I talking about? He's taking a leak. What was that thing? I saw that. But yeah, that's basically what they're doing. They're just putting a bunch of stuff together, Drew, and spitting it out and saying it's a new event.
Yeah, and spoiling it before it even comes out, which is a new turn. So yeah, we'll see how well that works out.
Well, that's not really new. They did it for the Batman wedding and stuff, right?
Well, at least it's like a full month. This is like almost a full month before it even starts.
Yeah. They did that with Trial Magneto in Inferno. They definitely mistimed on that one.
Well,
this isn't the first time they've spoiled. Like they did that with Batcat. They did that with the death of Deadshot and Suicide Squad, which I know isn't as large, but they did that about a month or two in advance.
Let me ask you guys this, because I think I can kind of gauge what the answer is going to be. But is this event because there is such a lack of understanding within the editorial and creative writing rooms? Because from what I'm hearing over at DC is like they're in the editorial room and they're all around the table, and someone goes, "Hey, we've got this event going," and someone else goes, "What?" And they all just start laughing. You know what I mean? And it's this kind of thing where no one's really in it. No one kind of understands what's going on, and that all these talking heads are kind of speaking corporate speak, but no one actually knows what they're trying to do in those offices. So do you think it's like a more of a like a lazy writing, or is it more of a, like, I don't want to say incompetence, but do you guys have an opinion on that?
I think they have limited resources.
Yes and yes.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm hearing similar things. We've also heard stories about writers not knowing the history of the characters they're writing. I started to comment on this when the question was asked about the different colors of the rings. I'm willing to bet that some of your writers don't fully understand. You probably have a better understanding, Max, of those rings and how they interact and counteract each other than half the writers at DC right now. And I'm not saying that. And look, I'm not saying that to be dismissive to the writers or even the editors. I think they are, from an editorial standpoint, they were so understaffed that they're trying to keep their head above water as best they can, which is, let's just make sure these books get published, that they're not able to do the work that they need to do. And we have so many new writers because they're trying to go as cheap as possible, that you have people that don't understand the history, they don't understand the characters, and they don't understand the stories they're trying to tell. You do have Joshua Williamson, who I think has a grasp on this universe and these characters, but he's kind of going solo. And if you'll remember, when Scott Snyder started laying out his Justice League, it was Snyder, Williamson, and I'm trying to remember who. Oh, Tynan. That they had the three branches of the Justice League. And it seems like he's trying to wrap up kind of where they were starting to go with that. But yeah, the people aren't there. The knowledge is not there.
Yeah.
And there's two more points to that. The first one is you're seeing this over and over again. I think that there was a recent article with Marika Tamaki where the editors are reaching out to writers and saying, "Hey, can you pitch something for this character? Can you pitch something for this book? Or would you be interested in writing for this character's book?" So it's not the inverse where a writer is saying, "I have a passion for the Flash. and I have this great idea for a story. What do you think? It's the other way around. It's editor saying, hey, writer over here, I know you by reputation, or I know you write some good stuff. Could you pitch me a story? And if it's good enough, we'll just pass it through. No link, no passion or anything else. The second part of that, which I think is infinitely more important, is be it editors or writers, it starts with the leadership. Yeah. It starts at the top and it trickles down. So if the editors, writers, and everybody, and artists, and everybody in between are not giving clear strategy, not giving clear vision and direction for where they should be going, everybody's just going off in their own directions. That is a lack of leadership, and it starts at the very top. It starts with Jim Lee. It starts with Marie Yavins. I mean, they're all nice people, but that's where it starts. And if that is rotten at the core, then nothing else is going to work below it.
Well,
I mean, from the
go ahead, Max.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, Drew, Wes, you guys know, I don't know if this was the correct terminology, but for the Marine Corps, we called it commander's intent. The commander would give his intent and then would brief that in a mission briefing room. And then the, lower levels of officers and staff would go out and accomplish that by any means that was necessary for the commander's intent to be met. And I think that's a great point, brother, is that without that commander's intent, no one has an idea of what to do or what to bring to the table. And Josh, like you were saying earlier, it's this, the editors are almost like above, like the water is rising and they can't even catch a breath of air because there's just everyone is so overwhelmed by what's going on with the merger and everything, which I know we'll get to later. But it's sad to see. And I think to your point as well, Marvel did this with Echo #1, or what it was like when Echo had the Phoenix Echo or something like that.
Echo.
Yeah. The editors said, we need to look for a writer who is Native American, not the other way around, like you said. And so they found someone who had never written a comic book before, never been, written a TV show or anything before. They just said, hey, can you write something for us about Phoenix song Echo? You know, right? Okay, yeah. And then they just gave it to her without any background or anything.
Because apparently all the Native Americans know all the Native American characters. It's totally how it works.
Well, it's also this idea of like, we don't understand, we used to, comic publishers, film studios, they used to do this back in the day, but instead of saying like, oh, we have to find a Native American writer, they found the best writer that they could. And then you consult people that are experts. And then, if you get someone that's Native American that comes in and they're your consultant and they help with some of the writing, then give them writing credits. If they become interested in writing for that medium, let them develop and learn, and you can give them small projects. But I don't know what happened to that idea of like, let's just get a consultant in here to make sure we're doing this right. Probably
you know what's really offensive about that? They didn't find a deaf writer.
All right, so we do have a few more super chats. Thank you so much to our friendly neighborhood banker. We've also got Cal Mile. Doc is a Red Lantern. Absolutely,
he's got Dexter. He's petting Dexter right now in his lap.
Atrocious is way nicer and has a sunnier disposition than Doc. He's too mean for Red Lantern status.
Wes, you're killing me. It's atrocitus.
It's atrocious. Atrocitus doesn't even make sense. It's not a real word or name.
I don't have OCD, but you're giving it to me every time you say it. So
now that I know that it bothers you, I will keep doing it.
Thank you.
The heavy hard drive, public domain Batman would be able to carry a gun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Certainly was. We've also got MH, hashtag Comics Invictus, Grumpy Lantern Creed, stay off my lawn, lights out at 6 p.m., up at 5:30, mow your lawn, turn down that music, we walk to school in the snow, uphill both ways with no shoes. Doc, is this dude in your shitter or something? Isn't that what you have in the bathroom?
Right below the live, laugh, love sign.
Yeah. right below that. That sounds about par for the course. I am probably the Grumpy Lantern. Yep. Which one's that? Is that the one with just like Clint Eastwood face on it?
No, you're the Brown Lantern. You know what I'm saying? Huh? Got him. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. This is very generous of you. We've got Las Tres 12. Morning, gentlemen. Honestly, DC needs someone who's not only talented, but also who loves and knows the universe. That alone, at least, will fix some of the issues. Yeah. They need someone like a Jeff Johns back.
Yeah.
What do you want?
If you want a structural analogy, think of it like a football team. The gym lead position is like the general manager of a team. They're very savvy about how it's supposed to work, but at the heart of it, they're also making business decisions. And then the person who's the EIC is the coach. That's the person who's coordinating, he's getting everybody moving, he's putting them in the right position. So if you don't have that relationship and those roles well defined and occupied by somebody who knows how to do those roles, it's never going to work out.
Yeah, they need someone that's an operations specialist, that someone who knows how to actually execute what the person up top is actually managing, because they're making like the big picture decisions. There's definitely seems to be some sort of disconnect, and we can hope that Jeff Johns is coming back, but he's not. He's got a big role to play at the Warner Media. He's going to probably have a big role to play after the Discovery merger and stuff. So I don't know. Marv Wolfman's out there, but a lot of these guys are getting older, Josh.
Yeah.
And that's too bad. We got Federico De La Casa for the channel. Let me dream. I think that when we have this again, the first unapologetic male protagonist like we did with Reacher on Amazon, we'll have a hit surprise.
That's been a great show.
Great show.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that show. Great show.
I don't get it. Reacher's supposed to be like 5'5". This dude looks like he's an NFL linebacker.
No.
Why is he so big?
You're thinking of Tom Cruise as Reacher. the book version, he's like 6'6", like 300 pounds of solid muscle. They fucked it up by
be some short old man.
No, they fucked, like, that's why I'm pretty sure that's the reason why the movies like failed. I mean, they did get a sequel out of it.
Yeah, Reacher has I had no clue how big the fan base was for Jack Reacher. And they were collectively pissed when Tom Cruise got cast.
My dad's a huge fan of those books. So he's like, whenever they cast Tom Cruise, he's like, it's like a 5'5" brown-haired old man. What the fuck is this? He's like, he's supposed to be like 6'6", 300 and blonde. What the shit?
It's like Max, you remember watching that Mummy reboot and they're like, you're trying to tell me Tom Cruise is a warrant officer in the army? This dude's like fucking old enough to be my grandpa, and I'm not young. Like, get out of here. Can we get someone a little bit younger to play the role?
I've seen, I'm sure you've witnessed this too, but some of those guys, in the military, they look much older than they actually are because of their
but those
time.
Dudes, they aren't going out to the desert. You put them on a desk.
Hey, just remember, just remember.
Sorry, blew your hips out.
Tom Cruise right now is older than Wilford Brimley was when they made Cocoon.
That's rough. We got another super chat here. We got Emperor Rex Nail. As somebody said earlier, DC Comics need people who truly know and care about the universe and characters. It shouldn't be that hard. Absolutely. I think that's not what we're all looking for, Gabe. I wouldn't know that there's somebody at DC who cares about the characters as much as I do. I don't feel like that's there right now.
Okay, let's
whether that's true or not. I'm just saying that's how.
No. I think there's some truth in that. It's not everybody. I think there are a lot of good people at DC who want good things for DC and who want to do the right thing. Let's pick on Batman for example. The past few months, particularly, there's been a whole lot of noise about the Comic-Con numbers and the ICV2 reports and everything else about all these different Batman books or Batman adjacent books and everything else. What that shows is the mentality, and I don't know if this came from Jim Lee, I don't know if it came from Darren Cherry, whatever, is instead of treating Batman like a person, like a character, somebody who has a life, who goes through challenges, who goes through all these things that a reader can get personally and emotionally invested in. That's how you build fans, by the way, is that you allow people to get emotionally invested in person. They treat Batman like a brand. And not just like taking the Bat logo and slapping it on.
He's a franchise.
Yeah, he's a franchise, and putting it on, backpacks and putting it on your Trapper Keeper. People still use those. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of date. But they treat it like a brand. That's how you wind up with Jace Fox's Batman, and this person is Batman, and then you have the imposter Batman, and then you have the old Batman and the new Batman. They're not treating it like a person who you want to be, who you want to relate to, who you want to have emotional connection with, and somebody who you want to follow. They've basically diluted and convoluted their own creation by turning it into a brand, and now nobody cares anymore because it just looks like the Coke logo that you would see on a delivery truck that goes down the street. You recognize it, you know that you have some popularity, good feelings about it, but you're not necessarily emotionally invested in it. And so what happens is that emotional connection is what builds fans. It's what builds fandom. It's what builds passion for that book and that character. And when you dilute it, you give people a reason to stop caring about that character. And when you give people a reason to stop caring about that character, it kind of falls apart. So they're trying to grab money from it, but at the same time, they're destroying themselves in the process. It's the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, we're bracing for an inevitable collapse at this point right now. It reminds me of the Masters of the Universe toy line in the 80s when they diluted it so much with so many different characters and toys that you got away from the core of it, and it just crashed. I think the crash may be coming a little sooner rather than later.
Managed decline.
It's a slow roll.
But as we've seen,
it's rolling.
As we've seen with a lot of these reports, like IVC2 and stuff, if they take any Batman titles away, I mean, that 14 out of the 16 titles that they could get on the top 50 were Batman. So if they do start to go back to the core of the character and take away all these diluted stories, then those are spots that they're losing, I guess, for those top spots. But I honestly think that's the best thing that they should do is take away some of these extra, Batman's Christmas Vacation, like all these random titles that no one's ever heard of, and just get right to the core of the character. Go back to Batman and Detective Comics and maybe like a couple others, but that's it.
Yeah, I think what you're thinking too, Max, is the same mindset that DC has, that, if we take these away, we're going to lose those sales. What I hear from the comic shop owners that I know is, customers are coming in and they've got a budget that they can spend. Mm-hmm. And they're so caught up. I think it's twofold. DC is trying to do what they can, even with some of these minor titles, to make them seem important. For instance, Urban Legends. It's an anthology book, but it's tying into main events. So customers are paying double to triple the price for a book to get that, to kind of keep this like completionist mindset going, that they're then sacrificing other titles that they may actually prefer reading, but they feel like they can't miss this. And then I think too, DC is aware that if you get in this monthly pattern of releasing things, that creates such a stimulus to want to keep buying. It's almost like, don't give your books a break, because then people might realize how much they didn't miss it.
Well, yeah, sort of it's something when it comes to relaunches that Marvel misses. And that Marvel, and both DC and Marvel, understood up until the mid to late 2000s, which was it's the concept of ongoing purchase versus new purchase. How many people here don't really even think about their Netflix subscription each month? They don't think about reevaluating that purchase. But if it comes to do I want to get Hulu? Do I want to get?
But we get what you're saying. I got so many more super chats. We got to get through these. Thank you so much to Emperor Rex. We've got Cal Lyle. When you all were talking about the current staff, it's almost as if they can't read or learn and are only writing with what's in their pants. I don't know about that. I'm sure somebody writes with what's in their pants, but I just think there's bad direction. I think writers improve with good leadership and good editorial staffs. I think they've just been cut to the bone. Yeah,
and the other piece of that too is it's a generalism. It's not a concrete truism. Yeah. Not every writer is meant for every type of property.
Correct.
Just because you're good at YA doesn't mean that you're good at doing The Flash, or just because you know how to do slice of life doesn't mean you know how to do Teen Titans. Not every writer is good at every type of property. There are genres and subgenres. And when you start thinking that writers are interchangeable, if you know how to put a sentence together and write some dialogue, you're in great shape. That's not the case. And we've seen that over and over again, especially in the last couple of years.
Yep. Yeah. So we also have Chuck Skills. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Jim Lee does not love DC. Jim Lee loves Batman. Just look at who he draws most of the time on his social media posts. DC needs a leader who loves more than just Batman.
I'm going to jump in on this real quick. And I keep going back to this and I keep mentioning this. If you've ever been to Comic-Con to hear Jim Lee speak, you know this isn't true. And if you want to understand why Jim Lee draws Batman as much as he does, and he's talked about this, it's quick and it's easy. So if he's going to have a presence that's consistent, like it's mostly just shading. And a lot of times he just does the cowl up or just the mask. That's why he does it. But if you ever listen to this man talk, he loves comics. He loves these characters, and it's very clear. And it's why I keep bringing this up, because if he would just step out and do this, people would have such a different impression of Jim Lee. I think they'd have a different impression of the characters in the world of DC, and I think you would actually see different stories because he would inspire the people below him to follow that path. But for whatever reason, he doesn't. He stays back. He stays hidden.
That's never been his personality, even as far back as Image. It's never been in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
No, he was, and let's be honest, Jim was always more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy. He wanted to run Marvel. He wanted to be Stan Lee. He did not want to be involved at really at DC. They just gave him the best offer for buying his company. And additionally,
he's been at DC longer than he was at Marvel now.
I understand that, but he's always wanted to be Stan. He was in love with the Marvel characters. And let's be honest, Batman is the most Marvel-like character in DC Comics. He would fit better at Marvel than he does in DC.
All right. We've also got Mr. DC Comics. Maybe DC doesn't want a guy like Jeff Johns because they don't want to worry about continuity. A lack of guidance gives free rein to movie producers and directors to make their versions of Batman. Do you think it's a corporate edict that we've got here, Drew, that's kind of coming up from on high of Warner Brothers and Warner Media? We're like, let's make things a little bit more loose with your continuity so we can tell stories that might transfer better over to other mediums.
Probably, most likely. Yeah, that could be the edict. But, I mean, I'm tired of seeing all these different iterations of Batman. I'm a Batman fan. I hate it. It's really irking me. It just it just really makes me just want to go back and just read Nightfall again, back stuff from the 80s and 90s. Just enjoy that. We had one Batman. We knew what he was doing. There was
Nightfall,
one timeline, one continuity. Yeah. But hey, I'll gladly read that over several months as opposed to reading the stuff.
I'm saying it'll keep you busy for a while. It's a long ass story.
Hey, we had a great team working on Batman back then with great leadership guiding Batman. But not the same.
Denny O'Neil, you got Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan. You got a lot of really great creators.
Yeah. I mean, even all the way going into the New 52, though, you got different versions of Batman, but they were segregated in a purposeful way. Like you had your mainline continuity Batman, and they were pretty cohesive through all the titles. Then you had your like Batman 66, you had your animated universe Batman, and then you had like when they eventually released Black Label, you got a darker, here's a more stern type thing. But if they went back to that, you could get what they're wanting to do and not have this confusion like they have.
Yeah, they've got a brand in a DC or in a Batman problem over at DC. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. We could definitely talk about DC's Dark Crisis, kind of break it down and the state of DC, but we've certainly been harping on that enough. Let's get over to Marvel. They're doing something. It's kind of par for the course here, Doc. We're getting a Secret Invasions retelling, and then we're also going to be getting 2099. We're getting another one of those because it's been 30 years, even though they just told 2099 last year, the year before, and we're getting a new Thunderbolts team. It's more regurgitation, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, look, they are creatively bankrupt. There is nothing new here at all. It's pure and utter creative bankruptcy. We just did, what was it, like 2-3 years ago, we did a 2099 thing. They've been trying to get an ongoing Spider-Man 2099, either in our time, in an alternate universe, in the 2099 era, in a different 2099 era with Miguel for what, like 5 years now? Like since right after Secret Wars, they've launched 2 or 3 different Spider-Man 2099 number ones. And of course, this time around, we're getting a Winter Soldier 2099.
Oh, that pissed me off. As soon as I saw that
ethnically, brown. I don't know what
a code name that was unique specifically to Bucky Barnes during the flipping Cold War. Are you kidding me? You are an idiot, Steve Orlando. You are an idiot.
Well, we know that he's a fucking idiot, blue-haired, side of the head shaved. Jesus Christ, can you get any more fucking current year? This is so tedious at this point. I mean, the minute they said, hey, we're getting a future Winter Soldier, I could have guessed what she looked like.
So when you guys read the 90s, like, Punisher 2099, Spider-Man 2099, all the 2099 titles, like from what I remember reading, they were just kind of fun, Spider-Man 2099 was fun. It was like, it wasn't anything too serious, but it delved into the world of 2099, the year of 2099. Like it really got to the, what would the politics, or not politics, but like, what would the cities be like? What would the characters be like? What would the tech be like? And so you kind of got immersed in the world, which is what comic books should do. But it just, this seems like they're trying to do each like book of these 2099 series that they're about to do just seems like, here's a first appearance of this character. We're going to make a key of this thing to bump the market up, and here's a key of the first Winter Soldier 2099 and a new Loki 2099 and whatever other characters they
remember a few years ago whenever they did the Deadpool 2099 with his daughter. Like one of his daughters in 2099. Like, come on, people, this is really like the X-Men 2099. It was a shit show book. It really was.
I will say, the 2099 line, it got great when Warren Ellis took over for Doom. When he took over for Doom, oh my God, he got into the politics of Doom running the U.S. and all the other nations trying to take him out. That was when it really it got legitimate and it got good.
Yeah,
they don't have someone like Warren Ellis doing this. Unfortunately, there's no guidance for the world.
2099 was what. If DC was smart about how they were approaching events, 2099 is what Future State should have been.
Yes.
Instead of trying to put it in the near future and then having to intermix with all the legacy characters and trying to figure out how one replaces the other, and how did Batman all of a sudden wind up on a train but no longer Batman and capture and all this other stuff. They put it so far in the future where all the writers and artists would already be dead, so who cares?
Yeah. So like fuck it, who cares?
And then you had Spider-Man 2099, you had Hulk, you had Doom, you had X-Men, and basically what they did is it was a way for them to start over without starting over. Because all those characters had their own original origin stories, and they could all kind of inhabit their world, but they weren't necessarily strongly tied back to the legacy of, well, we already have an X-Men, so how are you replacing the new X-Men? We already have a Spider-Man, so how are you replacing the Spider-Man? It was so far in the future that you sort of didn't care. It kind of works in the same way that Batman Beyond sort of works, even though Bruce Wayne is still around. It's so far in the future that you can make that disconnection between what's happening now and what's happening then, because you almost see it as two different universes.
Yeah, and the characters, even if they are still alive, any of the current ones are still alive, they're obviously way too old to still be carrying their mantle. They're
either dead or retired, or they've moved on to some other planet or something like that. The point that came up, I think, a couple weeks ago when they were talking about Hickman's plans for X-Men, and one of those plans would have been a child between Black Panther and Storm, and everybody's like, whatever. That would have been a good opportunity to create a Black Panther 2099 and set it as their descendant sometime in the future, and then you could have those stories with sort of like a future Black Panther replacement, and maybe do something interesting with, okay, what does Wakandan tech look like 100 years from now, or something to that degree, and what would you do with those stories?
Yeah, and what is the nature of mutant human relations then? Yeah. All that stuff was, you get all the benefit of, hey, we have a child of Black Panther and Storm, without having to ruin the current in-universe versions of Black Panther and Storm by saddling them with being parents, fundamentally changing who they are with no way to go backwards if it doesn't take.
So the point of all that is, having the 2099 concept isn't necessarily a bad concept as long as you have good artists and good writers and all the standard mainstays. But when you try and take those characters and pull them into our current day, that defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you ruin the idea, because that distance of future creates a natural separation that people are okay with.
Yeah.
When you bring it into current day, that's when you screw the whole thing up.
Yes, because you're putting a time clock on characters that we don't want to go away. Mm-hmm. And you're basically saying, nah, we're going to replace them with a diversity bingo character. Just accept it, and it's coming. Fuck you. That's what it's saying whenever you put it in the real universe. When you put it in a far-flung time, 50, 70 years from now, then everybody's like, all right, cool.
But they're going to marvel it, because they always do. Once you have a success with something that's in another universe, you got to make 8 more of them and take anything that was cool about it to begin with. That's why we've got like old man Peter Quill now.
Yeah, I mean the same thing. But now the Thunderbolts one, though, is stupid.
We're actually going to get Clinton Barton. We haven't seen him in comics.
It's Avengers West Coast, man. That's all it is.
Yeah,
this is Avengers West Coast, not called Avengers West Coast.
I mean, one kind of ruined that with Thunderbolts is that we knew that they were disguised as heroes, but they were villains. It's like they got rid of that. We already know who these characters are. I'm like, what is the point of this? Nothing fun about this.
Plus, you're already positioning the Thunderbolts as villains in Devil's Reign.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like there's too many heavy hitters for New York City.
Yeah.
So I do want to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting the channel. We've got Rodney Sanders II, $20. Thank you. It's very generous. No question. I just wanted to support the channel. Wes rants and insights carry me through these long days. Wes, continue to give Uncle Doc a hard time. I feel that it's my sworn duty to keep Doc in his place and make his life a living hell while he's on this channel. And I will do that for every single one of you.
Thumbs up to Rodney for using a Demon Slayer avatar.
Absolutely.
Hey,
very good stuff.
And
Manga's where it's at, right, Doc? Manga's where it's at.
Oh, fuck you. And for the record, my blood pressure is fucking dope. It's like 90/60.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I eat like a goddamn child. I eat nothing but fried foods and meat, and my blood pressure's at 90/60, and my cholesterol's fine, and I'm 40. So fuck all you people.
When your blood is 20% salt, it's hard to spike the pressure. You know what I mean? And I do want to say thank you to everybody that's giving us a thumbs up. If you want to support us that way, I think we're at 130 now. We've been over 250, close to 300 live viewers. So if you haven't done that, definitely give us a thumbs up to support the channel. And who else we got? Oh man, we got letters and numbers on this one. Ideator, something like that. I agree. Batman does fit better with Marvel than DC. Once you acknowledge Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, he seems out of place. What do you think, Josh? Is it time to kick Batman to the curb over to Marvel?
I mean, I don't think it's any different than when like Daredevil assists or helps the Avengers. I street level heroes are out of place with cosmic level heroes. Period. I mean, it happens. We get it. It's fun, but it's something I wish happened less frequently. But no, I think he's fine at DC.
What would DC have without him? He is the DC universe.
I know, but my point on that whole thing was that he does fit better with the more world outside your window reality of Marvel than he does with the Gods Among Us world of DC. Now he is but he provides a great function in DC because he is the closest thing they have to an everyman in that. Except for, a billionaire genius ninja that thinks 47 steps ahead.
Well, my point of view character is Dick Grayson, and always will be, because I see through Dick's eyes. You know what I mean?
You see through Dick's eyes?
Yes, I do.
All right. Is he a Cyclops? You don't have any depth perception?
Maybe. And also, for those that not everyone's been here with the whole time, I do have a new site on Redbubble. People have been asking for this Thinking Critical merch. You can go to Redbubble. There's a link in the video description if you want to check it out. And we've got t-shirts, hats, we got hoodies and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in this and you want one of these bad boys, definitely go look in the video description. It's right there for you. All right, let's get back to brass tacks. I'm sorry for interrupting with the promotions and the super chats. What were you going to say there, MVP? MVP, are you willing to acknowledge that you have the world's greatest Marvel supervillain name now? Maxfield Von Priestley?
It's true. I mean, the last time I was on, we even had someone saying that they wanted to use it for a villainous character that they were writing, and hey, I gotta acknowledge it. So I appreciate it. But because we've covered, we've gone over the 2099 and Thunderbolts, but the other thing that I was thinking while we're hearing about all this Marvel news is how much more secret can Secret Wars get? You know what I mean? How many more scrolls can be hidden within the Marvel universe until we have found them all? And so it's with all of these, the Thunderbolt Secret Wars 2099, it would be a risk, but it would be a welcome risk to see Marvel do something out of the ordinary and super creative and just kind of throw it out there and go, listen, this is a new thing. It's nothing regurgitated. Here it is. What do you guys think?
And I would love to see the Avengers just beat something that wasn't going to blow up the earth.
Yeah.
Somebody was taking over their mansion again or something.
Yeah.
It's you can't steal Iron Man's car. Let's get him.
I'm going to make a very awful prediction about Secret Invasion. The way the story is going to turn out is they recognize that they can determine scrolls through biochemistry, and so they're going to insist that everybody on the planet get vaccinated.
That would be a bold statement.
I was going to... Go ahead, Doc.
This time I'm not the one trying to get the channel demonetized.
I think we're okay with that stuff now. I think they unless
who the
Joe
fuck
Logan,
knows?
I was gonna say the best thing about that Secret Invasion press release was God, what was the writer's name? I know he did Squirrel Girl, but it was basically
Ryan North.
Yes. Basically it was North saying oh, this isn't going to go as in depth as the first one. It's going to be a little, more self-contained. And, oh, you don't need to read the first one. And, oh, it's basically the same thing. They're the same with DC. If you don't want to read it, it'll be fine afterwards. He's laying out all this stuff of this doesn't matter.
All the reasons you don't need to read it.
It's excuses.
Please, gosh. Even I recognize this is shit. Please don't read it. I'm embarrassed to have written it. And I wrote Squirrel Girl. This is embarrassing me. That's what he's saying.
I'm telling you right now, I've read DC's. I remember I read Gabe's reviews of Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and he was a fan.
No, don't you dare put that in my mouth. Dare put my name on that. I wouldn't touch a Squirrel Girl comic to save my life. That would maybe my children's life, not mine.
This at some point, I find it humorous that I'm wondering whether or not everyone in the Marvel universe they've all suffered serious repeated head trauma, but how do they keep forgetting about the Skrulls? This is the 48th time they've secretly invaded.
They do address this in the press release too, and I thought this was the one interesting aspect of why you might reapproach the story. He's supposed to be taking it from the stance of they know this has happened before, they've taken steps to prepare for this, and how is that gonna, follow through? Now, we all know clearly it's going to fail. Otherwise, you don't have a book on your hands. But, if they think of this, if they think through this well enough, you could still have an interesting story. Do I think they thought through it? Absolutely not. But I can hope.
Well,
you squint and you turn your head. There's a way it could work.
What would greatly amuse me? The only way that this book could actually be funny is, and Ryan North not need, executed for his sense of humor. Jesus,
Doc, we're not killing people.
Okay, fine. We'll just kick him out back to Canada and never let him.
Deportation, perfectly fine. Execution.
We can deport him and then bar him from the use of the internet. forever. So that way none of his terrible Canadian humor could possibly infiltrate and poison America again. But the only way that this, if they turns out that this is just nothing but a one shot, the Skrulls try to invade, the heroes immediately stop them, throw them all out, and then they're like, okay, and now there's nothing to do.
So the question is, will it be a comedy?
Ooh.
He'll try to be.
He'll attempt it. Will it actually be funny? Now, you know what? It'll be a comedy in the same way that Hannah Gadsby is funny.
Nobody knows who that is, and that's a good thing.
I don't even. I was like, I don't know what it is.
Doc's a big fan, right?
Hannah Gadsby's that
don't say it. No, don't say it.
that pseudo comedian on Netflix that's just not funny. Like it's post humor comedy. I don't know what it. Yeah,
we
post
need,
humor.
like,
It sounds like you're making words up, Doc.
It sounds like the people that made the shit up. Hey, let's do comedy that doesn't actually make you laugh.
He's trying to use the words that are not the real words because the real words are the bad words. So,
well, don't do that, Doc. I'm not looking for demonetization for your ass again.
Wes, just throwing this out there, but I think Doc and Gabe and a weekly video with just the two of them as like the odd couple of the Comics Aficionados would be highly entertaining.
The first issue we'll review is Mark Russell's One Star Squadron. How about we start with that?
I made Doc go through that last week.
I already read that one. That was
rough.
That almost made my brain bleed.
You want to talk about the one guy who thinks he's the funniest guy in the room is Mark Russell. There's no doubt in my mind. He's the only one that finds himself funny.
Yeah.
His mother doesn't find him funny.
Office Space is so good, Gabe. Like it seems like it should transfer, like the idea of it to transfer into superheroes to be more ironically funny. Somehow he took the humor out of it.
Okay, there was a show on NBC called Powerless.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like a pseudo damage control where they were insurance adjusters or something like that. It started off cheaply and terrible, but as the show went on, it kind of grew on you. It can be done. You can kind of take that Office Space mentality and transfer it into, and that's set in the DC universe. You had Jack-o'-lantern and some kind of like, C-list type characters in there that would show up occasionally. It can be done. What Russell is doing is not that. Because he's setting up the joke. Well, he puts the punchline, but he doesn't set up the joke. So somehow it just doesn't translate into anything that he's trying to make a kind of a statement that capitalism sucks, corporations suck and everything else. And he's trying to do it through satire, but he doesn't.
Does he know he works for AT&T?
I don't know. When you kind of straight-faced write yourself and have your renders of yourself as a comic book artist, creator, writer in your own comic on issue number 1, you already know you're in trouble because you're just making fun of yourself. You're laughing at the comic rather than with the comic. It just doesn't play. Please don't make me review that with Doc.
One Star Squadron?
No. I read part of the first episode. Jeez, I read part of the first issue and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm good.
It gets worse.
I can only imagine.
Speaking of shows, I think that might be why this whole Secret Wars thing is happening, is because there's a show.
So, yeah, absolutely.
And I know that Wes and Doc, you guys had made a video kind of regarding this, but it does seem like, because Marvel can't get it right. Whenever they have a movie out, it feels like the hero that is in that particular movie isn't in the comic. It's like the fans can't actually get what they're seeing on the screen into the comic. And so maybe Marvel's trying to do this with the Secret Invasion, Secret Wars type of thing, but I don't know. It's really just for the IP, and they're just trying to get some extra dough out of it. But I think that's really the main purpose behind this book.
But why did they put in Ryan North?
Hey, why'd they put Chris Cantwell on the Kenobi book? When you got the Kenobi series coming out,
that one hurt my heart. Hurt my heart.
It's a bunch of bad decisions. We got Wraith X7. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. The new Thunderbolt series might be synergy driven and could be an early preview of how the team will look in a live action MCU adaptation.
That's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. I hope that does not happen.
I think at least half the lineup in that new book is already live action, right? They have a Hawkeye. They have America Chavez. She's come out in Doctor Strange too, and a couple other stuff. So that might
you're going to have the Young Avengers, or where a lot of those are going to go.
Spectrum, Photon, Captain Marvel, whatever the hell she's being called now, is going to be in the Marvels. And I think a couple of these others are just going to be new, more self-insert characters.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Josh. I think I talked over you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to say, I do not expect to see these characters. Maybe one would be Hawkeye, but even after the Hawkeye series, I think they're setting up a West Coast Avengers type story because of what they introduced with
Kate.
Well, not even Kate, yeah, but his wife in the films as being a Mockingbird.
Yeah, the original Mockingbird.
Yeah, but I think they've also. I mean, if you want to look at the films, they've also set up actual villains that could take over as Thunderbolts, because you do have God, why can't I think of names today? Jesus. You've got Ghost that's in the picture. You could use Hawkeye if you wanted to. You've got Winter Soldier. You've got
Justin Hammer.
You've got Hammer. You've got Baron Zemo. You've got all these characters, and they might kind of do an amalgam of Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers.
General Ross, Red Hulk, right there.
Yeah,
Boom.
That's what I think you're going to end up seeing. So if they go this route as Thunderbolts in the films, I'm going to be pissed.
We've also got Dark Admiral March Hare here. Thank you so much. He's been with us pretty much from the beginning. I'm just waiting for everybody in Spider-Man Secret Infinity Wars 2099 with 70 variant covers. It comes with Beanie Baby poly bagged inside. Well, that's bullshit. It needs to come with
and a trading card.
Yeah, it's got to have
a hologram trading card.
Yeah, a die cut cover. We need to get some of those. What are the things? The Funko Pops, all that stuff.
Yeah,
some people and they really come for it.
Maybe they could do the acetate.
Oh, dude, some acetate cover. That's what I
need. Chromium covers.
Yeah, chromium. We could do chromium
back cover. Yeah,
back covers chromium, front covers acetate with die cut and a hologram, and it's a scratch and sniff and glow in the dark.
And every issue comes with the sexuality reveal for a new character.
Yep.
I mean, we started off talking about Dark Crisis. I dread the number of variant covers we're going to get with
that.
Oh, no.
I the number of tie-ins.
I figured it out. That's what the theme for the variants are. All 73 different genders gets a variant.
Thank you so much. We've got Lane Kramer. Wes, what are some of the big DC delays? Can I get a preview? I'll give you one preview. The DC Comics Black History Month special will be coming out in July. How do you do that one? That's pretty stupid, right? missed actually Black History Month by like 4 or 5 months. So there's a bunch of them. I'll go through them. I'm going to have a video up on that one tomorrow. But yeah, that's the dumbest one in there. But there are some really, really big delays. Some of them upwards of or longer than 6 months. Absolutely insane. All right, do we have anything else to say about Marvel Comics regurgitating? Or are we going back on the DC front? Oh, we're going back to DC. The Discovery Warner merger has been approved, Gabe. I know you've been keeping your eye on this one. What do you think this thing's going to finally start happening?
Do it. Just do it. Pull the trigger. Pull the pin. Pull the pin and let it rip. I mean, timing is always up in the air on corporate M&A. I keep hearing June, July-ish. But that's just basically signing the ink on the contracts. And then once that happens, and we've talked about this before, the stuff that always happens first is the elimination of redundancies. They call it efficiencies. The elimination of redundancies on the back end. It's going to be IT, legal, finance, HR, accounting, all that stuff that's on that's the stuff that happens first. And that'll take a few months to work out. But those discussions are already happening. So they kind of are, they're already developing a game plan for how that's going to go. So once they pull the trigger and people start moving in, but the back end stuff is what's going to change. So from a reader perspective, you're pretty much not going to see anything. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw nothing change of substance this year at all. That wouldn't surprise me, unless Discovery had some kind of weird chop shop kind of mentality, is like, we're just going to come in and then shut everything down and then start selling off the IPs, which I highly doubt. But you're probably not going to see anything this year, or at least nothing of major substance. But what you will see probably on the back end is a redux or redo of contracts, work policies, hiring practices, firing practices, how they treat independent contractors, all that kind of stuff. That you'll probably see sooner rather than later. And if you do see that soon, you will probably see some changes in swapping out of who are the writers, who are the artists, who are the editors, that kind of stuff. You may see some more editors get hired because Discovery says you can't run a shop this way and you need more people, go hire some. Maybe you'll see some of that. You may say, well, you can't just hire a writer on a comic if they don't show credentials and didn't go through our vetting HR process. You might see kind of a slowdown in kind of the weird hires that don't seem to make any sense that we talked about earlier. So will it happen? Probably June, July, maybe later. It depends on how things go. You're not going to see any major shift in the titles, probably not this year, if at all. Maybe you'll see a little bit, but maybe not at all. But what you will see is probably shuffling on the back end when it comes to hiring, firing, personnel changes. And then, so how that affects the comics is, TBD at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think what we talked about earlier, which is Dark Crisis and some of these big events feel like a holding pattern until it gets done, because a lot of people are just unsure whether or not they're going to be employed in 6 months. And so once that the switch is flipped and they sign that contract, people come in, people might start to kind of see, okay, we're really not moving anywhere, at least for the foreseeable future. So just keep status quo. And so you'll kind of get into this treading water pattern of stuff coming on. It wouldn't surprise me if there are no major events for the rest of the year. I could be wrong on that, but it wouldn't surprise me at all, because people are just so concerned with all the stuff that's happening in the back end that on the outside, it just looks like they're just kind of holding in a holding pattern until they figure themselves out.
I have one response to that. Isn't that exactly the same thing everybody said whenever they got acquired by AT&T? And why would it be any different than this time? They're both in the same business, and they're both going to try to slash the overall costs that are associated to maximize profit with DC. That means that does not
3 years before it happened, though. They're like 2 years, right?
No, there was bloodbaths almost immediately. There was just
those were associated with the pandemic.
There was one before that.
I'm with you, but
immediately after.
I'm with you, but there's a key difference. AT&T is not a media company.
Agreed.
They like to say they are, but they're not. Part of the acquisition, and you saw this with AT&T, you saw this with Comcast, and you saw this with other, as these are primarily network and internet providers that were getting hammered by the FCC because they were not meeting up to, was it I think it's Title 2 or Title 10 or something like that, that if you weren't providing content, you were going to be recategorized as utility. So they had to start buying up media companies so that they could produce content, so they could rightfully claim that they are not just a utility provider and then lose all the tax credits and everything else. Discovery is a content company. They are a media company. So they are used to creating shows, creating content, doing all kinds of things. Now, most of that is in the video landscape, but they at least have a primary focus of creating content. So I'm with you that there's a lot of similarities there, but there's a key difference in that Discovery's whole purpose is for creating content, creating entertainment for the masses. So they might, even though there are similarities in the corporate structure, they may look at that acquisition a little bit differently and try to do some different things going forward.
That's fair. Okay. I mean, no, that's a fair response.
We do have a couple of super chats I need to get in here real quick when we'll get back on topic. Mr. DC Comics, and I like where he's coming from. Spider-Man is more of a DC character if you think about it. His origin story, all that Batman villains he copies, he's the only character that actually seems like a hero from Marvel. How do you like that, Doc? We're taking Spider-Man.
He's not entirely wrong. Thor would absolutely fit better at DC. Hercules.
What's going on with you, Doc? You're agreeing with people.
I am agreeing with people. Some people make good points sometimes.
Are you getting laid? Is that what it is?
No, I am getting laid, but no, other people other than me are capable of making good points from time to time.
Diagnosed. I figured out why he's so pleasant right now.
A lot of people like to. A lot of people like to point to Batman as an analog from Moon Knight, and there's certainly a case for making that case. But I see Batman closer to an analog to Daredevil.
Yeah,
Iron Man.
Well, recently, yeah, because they keep giving Batman like tech suits, but
even then, it was always the futurist, thinking ahead, billionaire philanthropist, hiding. For a long time, Tony hid his secret identity. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. He's a cross between Iron Man and Daredevil.
Yeah, we need to bring Spider-Man in the DC universe. He doesn't belong at Marvel. I agree.
I'm just waiting for Punisher kills the DC universe.
Could happen. We got Federico De La Casa as well. I don't think we'll see the MCU repeated titles, so we'll have Champions instead of Young Avengers and Thunderbolts instead of Dark Avengers.
Oh, you might. Well, either way, I think Kevin Feige's too smart, and I think he knows there's so much money on the Avengers brand that if they're going to do films, he's going to use Avengers. And they've already set up this whole plot line of we don't have Avengers right now. So,
yeah, they've already kind of confirmed that they are going to have Young Avengers and that Kate Bishop's going to be on the team. They've kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
if you're going to try to do Dark Avengers without Norman Osborn, there's no point.
I mean, they are. They are. That's what what's her name?
Norman Osborn is what makes that Dark Avengers work. That's
Valentina. Yeah, I mean unless they change something, they've already set up with Spider-Man No Way Home that there's not necessarily Norman Osborn or an Oscorp that's around, and they've pretty much set up Valentina as the Norman Osborn. So that's why I said you're going to get an amalgam of Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts.
But what it did do, though, is what No Way Home does. It did set up that you could have multiple characters that look different, that were the same character. Because they established that precedent with the Peter Parkers. So you could establish a precedent where you get in somebody come in to be Norman Osborn, who's not William Dafoe.
100%.
So thank you very much. As far as this Disney Warner merger, what are you thinking about this, Drew? Are you hopeful? I think feel like Gabe just pissed on all our Wheaties. Like, yeah, you're not getting better DC for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's the way I see it. I mean, these things take contracts, everything. It takes a while to roll out and to iron everything out. It takes a long time, and even though the deal goes through, it's all going to be talks. This whole rest of this year is all going to be ongoing talks and discussions.
And the first thing you're going to hit is going to be HBO Max. It's not going to be DC Comics.
No, I'm sure DC is at the tail end of their concerns right now. Yeah, we probably not going to see anything until next year, from whatever talks they're going to have this year. But yeah, just need to sit and wait, unfortunately.
There'll be one dude that's like pretty low on the totem pole in the in their office. That's one of the youngest managers there that they'll task with doing an evaluation along with one of their D-list auditors to figure out what to do with DC Comics.
I would just love to have like the Bobs from Office Space talking to some of these writers. Like, what would you say?
What do you do?
I yell at people on Twitter. I yell at comic book readers because they don't like our stuff. Wait, you yell at them for not liking? How does that make any fucking sense? Because they're Nazis.
And this has improved sales for your book? Yeah.
Yeah, if we could get another Crisis event, that would be great.
Yeah, we're gonna need another Crisis. I don't know. I'm feeling somewhat optimistic that within the next 3 to 5 years, there could be major changes that for the better at DC Comics, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, typically speaking, you tend to see ebb and flows in publishers where they have years where they're rocking it out and years where it's just like bottom barrel comics. And I'm hoping that we're in the bottom barrel comics phase and we'll get some good stuff soon. And I think it's possible.
Mark Waid's working there right now, and he is the bellwether for whatever company's going to be shit.
All I'm going to say is World's Finest is excellent.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah,
Clock.
Maybe that's why T. Franklin's getting work. DC's like, hey, don't say anything about Mark Waid. He actually wrote something good. Just here's some money to write a book. Here's some money to write a book. Are you sure it was Mark Waid that said the N-word? I don't think
World's
it was.
Finest came out this week?
We got an advanced.
I was going to say, did I miss that? But
no, it didn't come out. It didn't come out this week. It's coming out soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's excellent. That's all I'm going to say.
Mark Waid knows what he's doing. It's when it comes to DC characters. That's all I'm going to say. And yes, we can trust this book.
If you want an idea about World's Finest, Batman News, we got an advanced copy and we're allowed to post an early review. And Jay's got that out there. But it's a good book. Thank God.
Is that on Popeye or?
No, it's on Batman News.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, eat that, Doc. Mark Waid knocked it out of the park.
Hey, yeah, blind squirrels catching nuts, broken clocks. Hey, maybe, but I can't. I wouldn't. I would absolutely bet against it still being good at issue 3.
I would willing to bet you. I'll give him 6 issues. I'll give him more than Tom King. He's got more leeway with me than Tom King does.
Well, that was my next question, was the longevity of this, because Drew, I remember you did a review with Kyle about the Dark Knight's Steel, or whatever the newest one that came out with Tom Taylor.
Tom Taylor, yeah.
And that first issue, even I agree, was fantastic. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of great appearances, really immersed yourself in this new story. And we're on issue 3 or 4 now, and you're just kind of going, what? What's the point? Where are we going with this? So I would be highly interested to see where World's Finest goes. But I'll take your word on it, Josh and Drew. I mean, you guys are the experts at this stuff, so I'll be picking it up next week then.
Drew, why do people keep calling your brother Kyle? It's Keel.
That's I blame my mom for that spelling. It's I guess it was the traditional, I think, the Irish spelling of it for Kyle. And it's so I always tell people, call him Keel. I want to see him get aggravated.
His name is Keel.
So I just love seeing his facial reaction, like, yes, it's Kyle, it's not Keel. And he looks at me like, what the hell? Why did you tell him to say that? So if you guys talk to Kyle, call him Keel. You got my permission.
Or Kevin.
Or Kevin, yes.
Tell me out. I'm having I had no idea. This is he's your blood brother?
Yeah.
How the fuck did I not know that? All right, carry on.
My God. All right, we got another super chat here. Emperor Rex Neal. Hulk is another hero that could fit in DC as well, I think. Also heard that Discovery wants to be customer focused, supposedly. I do think Hulk would fit much better in the DC universe. We'll take that one too, Doc.
Yeah, we have Damage.
All right.
Marvel can have Damage.
So
essentially, with a clock on him. As far as Discovery wanting to be more customer focused, it sounds like that's the direction that Disney's going to go, and I imagine a lot of people are going to go that. There's been a lot of people that have. Yes, there's been a lot of backlash. There's been a lot of people walking away from entertainment, not because they liked it or didn't like it, because they didn't like the way they were being treated by the people associated with it. So I think we are going to see a change as far as customer focus. Whether that bleeds down to the comic book division, how long it's going to take, I don't know. But
I got a feeling. Right? I got a feeling that their definition of customer focused is going to be kissing stores' asses, but still having the same amount of contempt for readers that they had before. Nothing's going to change in that regard.
I don't know. AT&T definitely had the worst customer service of my life, so it's got to get better, right? You ever talk to those guys?
Oh,
I tried to turn off my cable once. They talked to me for 45 minutes. I was like, "We're not doing this anymore. You're turning it off, whether you want to or not."
I was going to say,
pay for your cable.
Discovery's also been making incredibly smart decisions, because when you look at the media environment holistically, there's no reason Discovery should be like a top tier player, and they've made themselves that. So
I can tell you, Discovery Plus here in the Philippines kicks ass.
Hey, you know what? We need more Ancient Aliens, and
90 Day Fiance. We need more 90 Day Fiance.
90 Day Fiance. Love after and love during lockup. And it's always Yahtzee week on the History Channel.
Discovery Channel is the only channel I know that will take their shows and do variant cover versions of their shows. They do 90 Day Fiance, then they do 90 Day Fiance More to Love, which is the same episode, but they add in a little bit of extra footage, and then they do like a preview version that's like a half an hour shorter. So basically, they take one show and they split it up into 3. So basically, you're getting the variant cover equivalent.
DC's going where it needs to be.
The regular, the director's cut and the made for TV or the TV edit. You get all 3 of them, and then they have can't remember what it's.
Oh,
they did the
Jordan
same thing with
forgot that
quarters.
before the 90 days, 90 days, the single life.
Yeah. 90 Day the other way. Yeah.
90 the other way. Yep.
Is that shit real?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh.
Instead of
Well,
coming to America, they go to the foreign country.
My point in saying that was they're very aware of what customers want and they're feeding it to them.
Oh yeah.
So that is not necessarily a bad thing.
Unfortunately, what their customers want is a dumpster fire on a daily basis, and they love it.
So be prepared for even more variants.
Perhaps. We've also got Robin Hood. I don't know that I could buy a Mark Waid book in good conscience. I know how you feel. Josh will probably make me read this damn thing for This Week in Batman now.
I can read it for you if you want. It's all right. Yeah, look, I'm the type that I can kind of separate the creator and their work. If the work is good, I can appreciate the work because other people work on it as well. If you can't buy a book because out of good conscience because you can't support a creator, I support that 100%.
He's a shitbird, Doc.
I won't. You could not pay me to buy that. You can put a gun to my head, and I will not buy that book. Sorry. If Wade's name's on it, guaranteed I will never purchase it.
I think one of the first things I ever spoke to you about, Wes, was my concern about, hey, how do you channel that kind of thought process of differentiating between creator and content, or artist and artwork. At least that's what I had reached out to you about or whatnot. And for some people, I think there's a threshold that says if the work is this meaningful and the person is this shit of a person, maybe I can, there's a balance there that some people can kind of see through. And I think for this, maybe, like Josh, like you were saying, you can kind of separate the two, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how many people actually do pick up this book, no matter how good it is.
I think Wade crossed that line for a lot of people. There's other creators that have too.
It's going to be difficult in this environment, Josh. There's always so many good comic books. It's hard to say no to one that's actually going to work. Does anyone else have anything to say about Discovery or Warner Miniature before we move on? Good, because we got art controversy. The great Smallwood art. Apparently, the Marvel Comics editors went in and changed his art on some Asian characters for the Elektra Black, White, and Blood issue. I guess we also got that Joelle Jones thing. If you want to talk about that one, what do you think about this, Drew? You're a professional comic book writer now. What do you think about Greg's comments? Was he done wrong?
He should have been consulted on it. I'll say that. That's the biggest piece of crap right there. Like I'll say this: if Sean or Murphy, my editor, if she changed things without telling me, if things were
Sean Murphy's your editor?
Oh, I wish. Not that but Sean or Murphy, there we go. We're editing stuff without my knowledge. Like I would be pissed because they didn't consult me first. I think Greg has every right to be upset about this, and it's not cool. And the Joelle Jones thing, hey, it just don't be that guy that gets caught. Don't be that person. Every artist is going to at least swipe or do some type of tracing of it. Every artist does. In some point in their career, they have. It's just don't get caught. Be creative with it.
With what Drew's doing, I was just reminded that's actually something they do at Marvel a lot. They will actually. I've talked to a couple of comic pros. They won't work at Marvel anymore because the editors were going in and changing the dialogue and the meaning of their stories and shit without consulting them and putting it to press.
Yeah, they're doing it at DC as well. It's both companies.
Jesus. What the hell's going on here, Josh?
The weird thing about this incident in particular is they reached out to Smallwood with edits that they wanted him to change. And at first he said, no, I don't have time. And they're like, well, we're going to have the bullpen do it. And he's like, no, let me do it then. So he just hunkered down and did it. But they didn't mention that they wanted these changes. And then they did it anyways. It's like, okay, you already know this artist doesn't want you touching his work. And you're going to do it anyway. He's already touching it. Just if you want the eyes changed, which he probably would have fought them on. Or if you want more hair covering the boobs, just say it. But I don't know. It's shady.
It seems kind of like I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was for Veterans Day, but Marvel released a photo on their Twitter, or they had posted it somewhere, and it had erased the artist's signature on the photo, and then they had oversaturated it or something, and they had edited it a bit, and the artist had come back and said, where's my signature? Why are these colors all weird? What happened? And they had never consulted the artist before posting it was like a Captain America like anniversary cover or something. And it kind of reminds me of like this controversy kind of reminds me of that. It's just Marvel taking it into their own hands, the bullpen taking it into their own hands to fix something that they believe, or take something away that they think that they believe makes the art better. And it's just unfortunate because most of the time, and Wes, I know you mentioned this, most of the time when they do that, it makes it worse, because it's these corporates saying, hey, I don't like this, we're going to make it better. And then it actually makes it kind of more racist or more, like, I don't know. It just seems so inauthentic. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you draw eyes differently from heroes and villains. And the digital whiteout that they used made the girl look like a demon or evil.
Yeah. It was weird.
Like this.
It was very creepy.
Absolutely, it's creepy. Actually, I didn't realize the time. We're running out. Let's do this last one because people want to hear about Tom King's latest Batman Catwoman fails, I guess. Did you read this one, Gabe? Huh?
If I admit that I read it, is everybody gonna?
No, what did you think about Joker proclaiming that he could sex Bruce better than Selina?
In context, I recognize he was trying to be funny or chaotic Joker. I get that. I don't understand Tom King sometimes. I really don't.
It is.
He sucks.
The purpose of a comic book is to entertain an audience. I struggle to understand the subsection. If you take the Venn diagram of people with sixth sense of humor and the people who enjoy comic books, there's always going to be an overlap. I mean, Doc's on the call, so obviously there's an overlap there. Why would you write that in a comic? Why would you think that's A, appropriate, B, that anybody would want to hear that in the first place, and C, I get it. If you've read Strange Adventures, you know that there's Tom King writes things that have no entertainment value whatsoever. So I get it, but why would you write that? Is it consistent with the Joker's character? Has Joker ever expressed any kind of desire to kind of even say comments or make jokes on that level anywhere? I mean, maybe there is something back in the Black Label, somewhere in the the deep recesses of the dark deep past, probably something written by Morrison or Ellis or somebody. But why would you write that? I don't.
The only time it worked was ironically in The Dark Knight Returns and The Tunnel of Love. That was the only time it worked, just for that pure irony. But not like this is just edgelord bullshit.
You know what happened?
To do.
One of Tom King's friends said that when he was fucking Tom King's wife.
God damn it, Doc. Okay.
Sorry.
So, Gabe, what do you think was weird? Because that moment I thought was weird, but I also thought when Selina Kyle is talking to her daughter, and her daughter's like, "You don't think it was only Daddy that liked the whips?" I was like, "What the fuck is going on here? Like, which one was worse for you?" Because I thought they were really bad.
It just. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
No, it's all right. The worst part of it is when they said they were going to do Catwoman, Batman, and it's a love letter to the fans. That was already the worst part of it, because everything that came out of that, including this issue, is exactly why we don't trust DC when they make those statements. There is nothing about those comments. There is nothing about that juxtaposition and the implication that maybe there's something going on there with the daughter that's not quite appropriate and other stuff going on. There's nothing about that to me that says this is a love letter to the fans. There's nobody that I know. Granted, I have a limited scope of people that I know, but there's nobody that I know who's a Batman fan who looks at that and says, "Oof, yeah, this was."
I'm going to say this seriously. I've known people, like, the obviously implication here is something. Hey, mommy, I'm kinky too, and like it's weird and inappropriate. I've known people whose parents were also like they were kinky. Their parents were. They did not discuss it. Mm-mm. Like they were both open about yes, like this is a thing I do. Like you're aware, I'm aware. I know that you do this. We don't discuss it. not on a parent-child level. It becomes crossing lines.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say this: Tom King has a small number of fans now, but I will say this: at conventions, he does have a line. He has a fans who love this crap. I don't understand them. When I stand in line getting signatures and I hear them talk, I'm like, I'm so glad I do not converse with you guys.
I don't think he has comic fans. I think he just has Tom King fans, which I guess is good.
Just, they love this crap, and I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's just they're on a different wavelength than most people. And
Jordan Fugate, he chimes in. He's like, I don't understand. Tom King sometimes needs to be a bumper sticker. Yeah, it does.
I would say most of the time now, like his series Killing Time he's got coming out, I've completely lost any faith in it now after this issue. All faith is out the window now.
Yeah. Another one where he's making promises that he can't deliver. Common Sense says Cliff Chang's Catwoman Lonely City is better than Tom King. Absolutely, it's got to be.
Remember, Tom King was a middling CIA agent, a failed novelist, and then only became a quote unquote successful comic writer from basically getting out his middle-aged midlife crisis and applying it onto the Vision. That's it. Everything after that has been a repeat of that.
But you're missing out on another important piece. Is Tom King's mother is a semi-high to high WB executive, and has been since he was a little kid. And she would get him, because he's talked about this on multiple interviews, she would get him inside DC's offices, like in the bullpen, the quote unquote bullpen, and he would interact with all the writers and the artists and everything else. So he's had that networking kind of, I'm part of the group, even though I was never part of the group, since he was a young lad. And he's been able to parlay that over and over and over again. I'm not saying it's a nepotism thing where it's inappropriate that he ever got a job at DC. But what I'm saying is he's had the connections that he definitely did not earn as somebody who's like coming on off the street and say, I have the grand vision for the Flash, or I have the grand vision for Superman. And I've scratched and taught myself everything about writing or art and everything else to make that happen. He's definitely used every help. I hate to use the word privilege, but privilege maybe be part of that conversation to parlay that into something much bigger than if he were left to his own devices and he had to get there on his own. Well, I'm not saying to put him down, but what I am saying is, it's no accident he is where he is. It didn't just happen because he just clawed and scraped his way into his position. He had a lot of help.
I don't know.
I think some of this is coming out of that, thinking that he got there because he deserves it. And I'm not sure that's the case.
You know what? I'm not going to necessarily say that this has anything to do with nepotism. That obviously there's the question there, but I think it does explain why he only writes mommy wives.
Josh. Oh, sorry. MVP.
No, I was just going to say real quick. I think this just proves that the perversion of characters is really what, as what I see a lot of the times. It's like, so a lot of these writers focus too much on who's sleeping with who, or like who can make this weird edgelord kinky comment, and that's not the focus of these characters. I don't care, I don't care who Green Lantern is dating or sleeping with, you know what I mean? Like, it can add to the story maybe if it's determining a decision for him, or he's thinking about someone while he's out saving the universe, if it furthers the story, yeah. But when it's just these like Drew said, these edgelord comments that are just kind of perverted in nature, it just perverts then the character, and you're not, you don't want that type of person that you're reading, I guess. But
I do think there's I would say that Tom King is, you can definitely say he's very one note. I will say there's a slight difference between his earlier books and his more current books, where his earlier books, he focused on, what situations can these characters face that could potentially break them, and how do they overcome it? And I say that looking at Omega Men and Grayson, even Mr. Miracle. And then you look at his later stuff and it's like, how far can I break these characters? And even though it seems like it's similar, there is a fundamental difference, because he was still looking for a hero's journey in his earlier stories. And now he's just looking at how broken his people can be. And it makes it to where, even though his earlier stuff is dark, and it's not necessarily fun to read, there is a hopeful message in it. His Green Lantern one shot that he did for Dark Side War, probably one of the best things he's ever written. And then you come and you get this, and there's nothing redeeming about it. Maybe he needs a hug. I don't know. Maybe he would like a hug too much. I don't know. But they got to figure something out. Get him a co-writer. The editors need to tell him no. Someone needs to step in and do something.
That's just it. No one is telling him no. That's the problem.
But that's a great point that you mentioned, because like those older stories that you were speaking of, there's some sort of redemption, you know, but now it's just complete degradation and decompression and like just darkness. And I remember that Batman Catwoman holiday special one that was just like so depressing. It was just like continually just like how sad can we make you feel? And as long as there's hope at the end of it, like you were saying, Josh, that's fine. Like, you know, it's okay, because then you see that struggle, you see that hero's journey that they go through. But if it's just continual, you know, like awfulness, you can't get a breath. You see no light at the end of the tunnel, and that's a tough way to read comic books.
Yeah. The one thing I'll comment on Batman Catwoman specifically that we haven't really touched on is that, for me, from my perspective, it seems very clear that they're trying to set Joker up as Helena's father, and I hate it.
Honestly, at this point, fuck it, ruin them. Ruin them. You can't go far enough. Find out that you know what? Never mind. I can't say that. Or you will have to. No,
You've done enough, Doc.
Yes, I've done enough damage already.
Jeez. I don't know. Is that where you think this thing is heading, Gabe?
I think this issue strongly implies that potential. That the Joker.
They've certainly heavily implied that they were sleeping in the past. You know, Bruce Wayne walked into the room. He's like, "I can smell Joker on you. Like, you guys just had sex," kind of thing.
I mean, the same thing that comes out of this issue is the same thing that came out of almost every issue, especially when you realize the selling point was the phantasm. Which basically is nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing here. What is the point of this? What is the point of this?
This is marginally better artwork. Gotham High.
So a waste of
Clayman.
Complete waste of Clayman.
Yeah.
No, but I mean it's Gotham High when they're adults. This is literally like Gotham High Dark Knight. This is Dark Knight Returns for Gotham High.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can see that.
But the question we keep coming back to is, what is the point of this? And I find myself continually asking the question with this series. I was asking myself that same question with Strange Adventures and to the
Rorschach.
End of that, Rorschach, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. The last issue comes out this week. Up to this point, it's like, again, what is the point of this?
What was the point of Mr. Miracle? By the end, nothing.
I think the Human Target surprisingly hasn't been that bad. I mean, we had that misstep with Guy Gardner, where that was a ridiculous mischaracterization of Guy Gardner. But that one's been sort of okay. But again, that's with all these big. I mean, these are not like 3-issue arcs. These are 8, 10, 12-issue arcs. When at the end of it, if you're asking yourself, what was the point of this? Why did you take me and rub my nose in a big dog pile of misery for the last 12 issues? What was I supposed to get out of this? And at the end of it, you're just like, everything is awful. Everybody's terrible.
Rorschach one was the worst one, because I was reading. I'm like, well, there's maybe an intriguing mystery here. How's he going to wrap this up? And it was like, this was like his own fantasy of killing a politician. I was like,
and degrading weird. Frank Miller and Steve Ditko and other creators in his book.
I was like, I don't think
he ever forgave Frank Miller for embarrassing him on stage at that time.
Honestly so.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That was great.
Frank was literally like dying in front of us and still owned the shit out of Tom King.
Yeah.
So, Gabe, you are recommending people read The Human Target.
I like it, except for that Guy Gardner thing, which infuriated me. Everything else so far has been pretty okay. It's a
Remember-
solid detective noir story.
If you go and read that comic book on Gabe's suggestion, don't tell me about it. Talk to him when he falls
So
apart.
far.
Remember, Mr. Miracle was okay up through about the 4th, 5th issue.
5th issue,
Yeah. And Supergirl, I think, was kind of interesting about through the 3rd or 4th issue, and then all of a sudden they're introduced to racial genocide, which is always fun, and so all kinds of weird stuff. It's like, why? So far it's okay. That could change at any moment. So who knows?
I think Ben Percy is Marvel's Tom King too.
No, Christopher Cantwell.
Oh yeah, Cantwell. Yeah, sorry, you're right. Cantwell.
Can't write well.
Yep.
Yeah, you're way off on that one, Doc. So, all right, well, let's end it on a positive note. Tom King's latest Batman, that thing was awful. Let's get into some comic book recommendations, talk about stuff people should be reading. So, MVP, what are you reading this week? What should people be diving into?
I've been diving into some fun 90s stuff. Granted, these aren't like storylines that are world breaking or anything that's going to be on any top 10 list, but I've been really getting into the Stephen Platt like artwork stuff. So his Soul Saga run from Top Cow back in the 90s is so good. It's just so much. The world that he creates, everything is original. And like I said, the artwork is just amazing. The inking is fantastic. I'll flip through it and just like I'll read it and then I'll go through and look at the artwork just solely alone, not reading any text. Excuse me. And then the second one I was going to say is the Prophet series, another one that's like not, of course it's not going to be a top 10 on anyone's writer's list, but there are a couple issues that Platt draws and inks, and it reminds me of the Barry Windsor Smith like Weapon X level of detail and grit, and it's just beautiful. So and plus, as a man of faith, Prophet's cool because he's like citing verses as he's like chopping dudes around, and it's cool. So those are the two that I've been kind of delving into this past week. It's been fun.
Hey, I got a little piece of trivia for you on Soul Saga.
Ooh.
Only 5 issues of it were released in the US.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 6th issue. It was only released in French in France. There is a 6th issue of Soul Saga that finished up the story because you got left on a cliffhanger at the end of issue 5 in the American one, but it did get released in France. It's only black and white. It didn't get colors, but it's all in French, but it exists.
Oh,
I've never read it.
You can actually find issue 6 on Comixology colored and finished. So
in English?
I believe so. At least that's what I saw. $3.99.
Oh,
yeah. So I might.
I was looking for that
Eat it, Doc.
forever. Oh, I will eat it because it never was released. Yeah, it was never released in the States.
I had to look for it too, because at the end of issue 5, like you said, Doc, I read it and I go, wait a sec. And I'm looking around my long boxes and I'm going, did I miss something here? And I had to Google it, and sure enough, yeah, they said that issue 6 wasn't released, it wasn't finished, blah blah. But then they released the digital version not too long ago, I guess, and put it up on Comixology. So I still have yet to read it though.
It looks like it's 99 cents right now.
Oh,
Boom.
hey, well,
Jump
even
on that.
better. Hell
Nice.
yeah, excellent.
Man, you owe MVP a beer, man.
Hey, no, honestly, that's dope, dude. Oh,
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the heads up. I've been waiting.
Hey. Oh, let's do a video of a retrospective. We'll steal Wes's idea of doing retrospectives, and we'll do one for Soul Saga.
Absolutely.
Yes, everyone does retrospectives, man. Definitely, you guys do that. We got Neostar Productions. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Very generous. I'm getting tired of seeing writers spend an entire run breaking the character just to have a new writer spend an entire run trying to fix everything the last writer broke. No more vandal writers. That's what I'm tired of, Drew. It's like, Jesus, man. We can break them a little bit. You got to build them back up at some point, right?
That's the key element. All these writers now are forgetting that building them back up. Tom King, he completely forgot about that element. Building them back up. Christopher can't write well. Forgot that element. Building them back up. They just want to deconstruct, not reconstruct.
Yeah, they only got like the first 2 lessons of Alan Moore's playbook. They forgot the whole thing.
Reconstruction requires skill. Any idiot with a hammer can break stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Great point, Neostar Productions. All right, Gabe, you read some bad comic books this week.
Well,
we can admit that.
I read some doozies.
But you read some good stuff too. What do you think people should be reading this week?
I'm going to give you 2 recommendations. One's like a quick read, and one's a little bit longer. But they're both. I thought they were both good for different reasons. The first one I'm going to recommend is Good Boy #3 from Source Point Press. It is literally John Wick. It is literally John Wick. I mean, it's like point for point with gold coins, the suit, everything. But it's the dog instead of the man. So imagine the human gets killed and the dog is the assassin, and you have this German Shepherd type. It's just fun because it takes it so 100% seriously and sticks to the material, and it's just bizarre to watch. So it's entertaining just for the kind of the cool factor of it. So that's Source Point Press. The other one I'm going to recommend for a different reason, but it's kind of in that same vein, is Jennifer Blood #5 from Dynamite. It is pure grindhouse gangster Italian assassin noise and nonsense. And if you love like giallo films and just seeing people just rip each other apart with all kinds of automatic gunfire and knives and machetes and knife fights and everything going on, you're going to enjoy that one a lot. It's not highbrow material by any stretch, but it knows what it wants to do. It just wants to be fun. It just wants to entertain you, and it does it pretty well.
Very nice. I like that. Who else we got? We got Drew from Comics Elite. You and I are going to be doing a best comic books of the week video tomorrow. Do you want to give people a little flavor of what they should be looking out for?
I will say there was a certain indie book that Marco Trucchetto did the interior artwork for that was straight up fun. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go.
And, it involves zombies.
That's on my list. Very good. Who else we got here? We got Josh. What kind of Batman comics you recommending this week?
Anything that's not current. No, specifically with Batman. I will say Scooby-Doo. Yeah, well, that could be fun. I'm gonna say, they went ahead and promoted three collections, 3 graphic novels, if you want to call them that, for the film, and it's Batman Year One, Batman: The Long Halloween, and Batman Ego. There's a good chance a number of you haven't read Ego. I recommend it. I recommend all 3. Read those. And then as far as floppies, I'm still enjoying King of Spies. I thought this newest issue took a very slight dip, but like, I even hate saying that because I'm still loving it. So,
all right, Doc, what do you recommend this week? New Mutants or Secret X-Men?
I am recommending. Totally recommending Secret X. No, I'm recommending that you never even acknowledge that Secret X-Men was ever published. I'm also I am going to recommend though King of Spies #3. That fucking book is so much fun. Definitely
the whole thing again.
No, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing again.
All right.
I was just spoiling the premise the first time. Come on.
You were given details. You're talking about people dying and stuff. My goodness.
Okay. Regardless, I'm going to recommend King of Spies #3. There's only 1 issue left on it. It's a 4-issue miniseries. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this thing ends. I'm recommending X Deaths of Wolverine because, again, there is every time the death books, I want to see Wolverine keep dying. If this is what I'm getting between Lives of Wolverine and Deaths of Wolverine, I want to read the deaths only. Don't read the lives, just read the deaths, because they don't have anything to do with each other.
Very disjointed.
Yes. And let's see, anything else really come out? The Scorch #2 came out. I haven't read it yet, but I picked it up.
Definitely, Doc and I will be doing a full review of X Deaths of Wolverine tomorrow. We also have our worst of the week where we do hit Secret X-Men. And definitely, if you're a fan of the channel and you like Tim Lim, they've got their Kickstarter up for Common America Volume 5 right now, doing great stuff. Obviously, I've had Tim on the channel a couple of times this week. I really appreciate that. If you want to know what books I'm recommending, check out the video tomorrow with Drew from Comics Elite. I want to say thank you to everyone for supporting the channel. Definitely check out the Redbubble site with the Thinking Critical actual merch out there. And God bless you all. We'll see you next week.
Bye.